to ask. Welcome to the ECE EDU COP Retreat 2021. We are excited to have you watching this. Thanks for being here today. As of right now, we have Renee Marshall, Megan Kaplinsky, and Shannon from West Hills Lemoore on the line. We're hoping more will join us, but one of the things that I put into our retreat today is a SWOT analysis. That was something that we did within TPP. Gosh, we did it kind of internally a few years ago. Oh, Kathleen's here. We did it with Annie when she was our TAP, and Tanette and I, and it was before we were like relaunching the website and just everything that went along with kind of the relaunch of Ed Futures. And the SWOT analysis, it was really effective and helpful. So I hope everybody's okay with that, but I thought we could engage in a SWOT analysis today. Let me go ahead and, sorry, I didn't put this in the chat yet. Oh goodness, come on, load. Sorry, I'm trying to load the document into the chat and it's not loading. Let me close it and try again. Anyway, so I put together a SWOT analysis like guide for us, but I did it on Jamboard. So I hope that will be effective. And I have a little icebreaker to start us off with. It's a little cheesy. Good morning, Kathleen. Are you here with us almost?
I'm here. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I should give everybody a little warning though, or like just a disclaimer. You may notice that I have some very attractive tape on my chin right now. While we were in Tahoe last week on the first day of our family vacation, I actually got into a really scary boat accident and busted up my chin pretty bad and had to go to urgent care a few times and get some stitches. So I still need to have the tape on. But I have to be really honest with you guys where what happened could have been much worse than what it was. So I feel incredibly grateful that I just have a little bit of a scar on my chin. No biggie right there. But if you notice the tape, that's what happened. And anyways, I fell off a boat and smashed my chin on the back of the boat and went into the water in the middle of Lake Tahoe. And I'm just grateful I didn't pass out, because I think if I passed out, I would have died. So anyways, so I'm here.
Glad you're here.
Thank you. I feel like I have more work to do.
Yeah, nine lives.
That's how I feel. Well, it was quite the vacation too, because my son got strep throat. So we actually got to go to urgent care 3 times over the week, and to urgent cares where we didn't know if we had coverage or not. So that's going to be fun to get those bills. One of the things I learned from my trip is before you go on vacation, find out what medical you can use in the areas, because my son, it was 4th of July, so all of the insurance was closed. So we couldn't even call anybody to ask. So, you know, in the end, we're still covered, so we'll figure it out. But it's frustrating because you think, oh, we've got good health care and it shouldn't be an issue. And sometimes it is. Good morning, Doug. It's good to see you today. I don't know why the agenda is not loading into the chat for some reason. I saved it as a PDF and a Word doc, so I'm going to quickly just email it to everybody. I apologize. Let me just... Okay. Also, great news, everyone. Our CCC AOE Community of Practice proposal was accepted. And so we will be officially presenting at CCC AOE, which is so exciting. Oh, shoot. Oh, my God.
And Megan, ours was accepted as well. So we'll be presenting on our OER. So, yeah.
I love it. It's going to be a good CCC AOE. It'll be nice to get everybody together, too.
Do we know dates and times, or does that come later?
Right now, what they did, Megan, is they sent us the approval, and now we need to kind of survey our team to see when we want to meet. And so what we're going to need to do is coordinate the presentations to make sure we don't have any double up, ideally. And I was telling Shannon, like, I had submitted 4 proposals, and I've heard about 2 at this point. So one of the other proposals is Teach LARC. So I don't know if maybe that one didn't go through. And then the other one is for Antelope Valley College, and we specifically requested to be during the virtual conference. So I'm not sure if maybe they're kind of following up with those ones later. So either way, we have at least 3 of our, well, one of them's a JSPAC, but we have at least 2 TPP sessions in, and we are scheduled for the the social networking event on Thursday.
Mhm.
So it should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun. Anyways, let's go ahead and start off. I just sent everybody the email of the agenda. I'm going to put it up just for a quick moment so we can all glance at it. I thought we could start off with an icebreaker because I feel like since it's a retreat, we kind of have to. So I hope everybody's okay with that. And I was looking for different things, and then I went through and just found like a get to know you kind of icebreaker. So what I'm going to do is I have a mug, a root beer mug or beer mug, however you want to look at it, filled with little like prompts here that I got online. They're little snowballs and they're just like conversation starters. And so I'm going to pull one out and then I'm going to read it and see who wants to answer it because some of them are kind of funky. So I don't want anybody to feel like on the spot. So, okay, let's start with one. Oh, this is a good one. If you had only 24 hours to live, what would you do? If you had 24 hours to live, what would you do? Anybody want to take it?
I have something pop in my head, but I don't know if it's everything I would do.
Thinking again.
I have a 13-year-old and I would probably pick a card for all his birthdays up to 21 or something, and then something for if he gets married or has a child, and make him cards with long messages and maybe some video ones too.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I'm like teary-eyed because the first thing I'm thinking of is I'm like, I want to go on a trip to whatever, and you're like all the good mom. I was
24
like, oh.
hours, I don't have time to plan a good trip, but I'll probably also call people.
Yeah, yeah, nice. I like that. Okay, let's do. Okay, this is a good one. If you can invite 3 people, living or dead, over for a party, who would they be? 3 people, living or dead, to a party. Who would they be?
I would invite Jesus, Elvis, and Muhammad Ali.
Why? What's your rationale, Doug?
Well, I mean, Jesus, I want him to explain all that mysterious stuff in the Bible. Elvis, just because I think he was an awesome music recorder. And Muhammad Ali, I think he was a wonderful person and a good boxer. And plus, you know, I mean, I'm gonna take selfies and I'm gonna put it on my Facebook page.
I love it.
No one would believe it. The thing is all imposters.
Totally. With like a Michael Jackson impersonator. I keep thinking Michael Jackson because I've got the tape on this week. Do you remember when his nose was taped for a while? I love that answer though, Doug. That is great. Okay, I'm going to reach in again. I'm mixing them around. Do not think I am not mixing. You know, it's like raffle when people are like, my number's on the bottom, mix it up. Okay. Oh, sorry. Some of these are silly. We can skip this one. You know what? Or we can all answer it either way. If someone's underwear was showing, don't you tell them?
Oh, it depends who it is. If it's a hot, beautiful girl, no, I'm not going to tell her. I'm just going to look. But if it's a plumber, I'm going to tell him right away.
I feel like it's women code. You have to tell another woman.
It's kind of like when there's toilet paper on somebody's foot when they walk out of the bathroom, you have to stop them, and you know, I like that. So it's code. And Shannon, you said you'd tell too?
Yes, for sure.
Nice, nice. Okay, I'm gonna pull maybe like 1 or 2 more, or let's do 2 more. Oh, this is a good one. If you bumped your car into somebody else's but nobody saw, what would you do?
Oh my God. I have this real situation. It's costing me $800
Mm.
because exactly happened. I bumped into somebody's car. I didn't know who it was. And I left a note and my phone number, and she called me, but it's a good thing. She turned out to be a bit older woman whose husband had just passed away.
Oh.
And you know, and I'm glad because, you know, she got an estimate. It was just a little bump on the fender, but the estimate was $800. So, you know, I have to follow through and pay that with her. So
I bet she really appreciated that. Given the situation right now, Doug, it would have been awful for her to have something else and it would be dangling.
yeah, totally. She
You know?
probably wouldn't have even noticed it because because actually she said she didn't notice it. And then when she got in the car, she saw on the windshield that there was somebody had left a note on her windshield. And then she saw my note. Then she got out of the car and looked and said, "Oh yeah, there's a crunch on my bumper." But you're right. She did say, "Oh, thank you for being honest." That's what she called it, being honest.
I think I would tell or leave a note or something, at least make an effort. I think about my husband was working at this one company, not the company he's with right now, but the one prior. And he actually got hit really, his car, he has a BMW and it got hit pretty badly. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was when he had his Infinity. It was hit pretty badly in his work parking lot. And
On the side or in the back?
on the side, and it was like they like backed out and scraped it kind of deal. And
Wow.
so, yeah. And then, so he was talking to his coworker about it. And she's like, "Oh, that's such a bummer." And, she like, he was just talking casually because he didn't know the car. He ended up talking to the security. He left a note for them and they, because it was like they had scratched it, but then they had parked next to him. It was like, so they were still there. So he'd left a note trying to make contact and they didn't reach out to him. And so he went to security. And the security pulled the footage and they showed him and they weren't supposed to. And it was his good coworker that he worked with that he told her his car was hit.
Oh my God. Wow. That's a little.
She never fessed up to it. And I was like, "Aren't you going to like call her out?" And he goes, "Well, security talked to her." He goes, "But she didn't follow up with me." And he's like, "It sucks, but it's not worth losing the professional relationship." He goes, "But I will never trust her on a project."
Wow.
If she's doing that in our work parking lot, like what's her character? And I was like, yeah, isn't that a bummer? And he never like, pushed it, but I'd tell.
What was their relationship professionally? Were they equals or was she above him or below him on the job?
I think they were equals. I want to say like they weren't in the same exact sub department, but they worked in like the broader department together. You know what I mean? And she made well over $100,000 a year, so it wasn't a financial issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a character issue,
Yeah, big time.
unfortunately. So, but he left that company, so it all works out, right? Okay, let's do one more. No, I don't know about this one, but if you had to pick one current song or one song to play continuously nonstop in your background of your everyday life, what would it be?
In the ghetto.
I would probably pick, this is going to sound silly because it's not really, the storyline behind this song is not a great storyline, but it's really, really catchy. If you like pina coladas, getting caught in the rain. Now it's totally about them like cheating on each other or potentially cheating on each other, but it is one heck of a catchy tune, and I literally feel like relaxed every time I hear it.
I can just picture you singing that to yourself driving up the freeway.
Shannon, Megan, Kathleen, what about you? Any songs that you would keep on loop?
I'm thinking of all these rock and loud songs I like and hip hop. And then I'm like, I don't know if I could have that on and do everything I like to do. So this song comes to mind. I think it's in the movie Pride and Prejudice. It's just this beautiful one. And it's so pretty. And there's like emotional parts to it, but it's just beautiful classical kind of music. And I don't normally listen to that, but it is just so touching. If you share it with anyone that likes, Jane Austen, they're like, "Yes, that song, Mr. Darcy."
Oh, how funny.
It's just beautiful. So I would pick something like that.
Nice.
That is nice.
People are obsessed with Mr. Darcy. I know of somebody who used to she would show a Pride and Prejudice showing every year that only women were invited to, and it was very particular. And I love it. Shannon, what about you? Any song in particular?
I think I would probably pick one from one of my Hillsong songs. They're my worship group that I really, really love. It's, that one any of theirs I could listen to all the time. So
Which song, Shannon? Maybe I know it.
Some of the well, I like all of Hillsong music, but Who You Say I Am is one of my favorites.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Nice. Kathleen, do you want to share?
Not sure. I mean, I'm not sure what song. I don't mind sharing, but I'm not sure. It'll come to me probably in like 20 minutes.
Well, feel free to interject at any time.
Okay. All right.
So you're gonna be like, that's the song.
That's the song.
I love it. I love it. Well, I just wanted to start out with some icebreakers because it's always a good way to connect, as we all know. And I thought it might bring some smiles to our faces. I'll tell you, when I was pulling up ideas last night, though, I was like going through all these different ones. And finally, I'm like, I wish there was a way, and maybe there is, where these kind of questions can be almost on like a chart where you can do it online, and I couldn't find anything. So I just went old school and printed them up and cut them and put them in a jar and whatnot. But anyways, thanks for being here today. So I'm excited for our retreat. I don't know if this will take the full time I allotted for it. I wasn't sure, but I also wanted to make sure that we had enough time to do a deep dive in terms of what really worked, what some of our weaknesses are, and what we want to do moving forward. I'm coming to this meeting with no preconceptions. I just want you guys to know. If we as a team determine that the COPs are done and we wrap them, that's fine. I mean, whatever we determine is what we determine. And so I just thought it would be smart for us to come together to just have some time to figure out what the future holds for us, and what that'll look like. And Doug, our leadership team, we intentionally wanted to invite you and to bring you into the leadership team.
Thank you.
Because, yeah, absolutely. I think your perspective has been a great one this year. Like, you came in at an interesting time, you've consistently contributed, and you should be part of the leadership team. So I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We have some other people that are included in the leadership team as well that aren't able to be here. I mentioned to some of you, Rachel had a death yesterday. Her aunt passed away very unexpectedly. She is on the drive right now to the airport. She said she's going to call in and join us before she boards her plane to Phoenix today. So I just sent her a heart and said, if you're able to, great. If not, don't worry. When we spoke yesterday, it was, obviously an emotional time for her, and we just want to support her. I told her, don't worry on any of the data or anything. We'll figure it all out. And she said, whatever the team wants to do moving forward is what we will do. And so it was really great because it was just a full collective experience where she said, bring it to everybody and let's see what they say. So I thought we could start off with a little bit of overviews. Just what was, what kind of did we accomplish in the first year? What kind of deliverables came out that we weren't even intending? And so Megan and Shannon, since you both are here, could you start off with the EDU COP? And it can be informal, however you want to share it. I just think it's good for us to kind of lay down and record some of these accomplishments. I do believe, and this is something we're going to discuss later, I do believe that if we decide to close the COPs, I think, well, even if we decide to continue them, I think there needs to be some sort of closure soon, and not saying to stop them, but like whether that's a white paper or a final report or a video or whatever. I think we need a summary of year one. So I thought this retreat could be a way to really kind of get all those ideas down and then turn it into something that could then be a deliverable. So, okay, I will get quiet. So our EDU COP leads, you both have fearlessly, I still can't even believe, I remember being like, so I've got this crazy idea and I'm wondering if by chance you could take lead, and the fact that it turned into what it did, I just feel like, I feel lucky. I know it was a lot of work, but I feel lucky because I feel like we filled a huge need. So COP leads, tell us a bit about your experience.
Yeah, so I was going to go in and count all the slide decks we have in Google this morning, but my computer decided to restart and then be very laggy. So it took me a minute to get on this meeting, and I didn't count them yet, but maybe there'll be a chance to count how many we had. But we were meeting very regularly right after the pandemic began, when we all went virtual and had to pivot our fieldwork placements. And we were meeting all throughout the summer, planning strategic meetings. So some of them were formal meetings held on various days of the week, where we had those special guests like Marquita from the CSU and others to kind of really give state updates, CSU policy updates, because everything was so uncertain. Then we realized there was a need for casual discussion, like how are you going to set up your class? What are you going to do? And those became Fieldwork Fridays, kind of like a coffee chat kind of atmosphere. And so those were Fridays. And so those were like happening multiple times a month. And then they continued still very frequently throughout the next year. This summer's on pause because we anticipate being in person for field work, but being able to continue virtual just for one more semester in the fall. I still personally have not had any updates. When I checked with my CSU Long Beach, they're going to be all virtual for fall. The last I checked in, I hope I have that right. That's my understanding right now. And I said, did you hear anything from the CSU overall yet? And they had not. So I expect that to be one of the possible updates to the field if we get any firm information. But Shannon and I said, you know, at the end, at our last meeting in the spring, that we would follow up with a poll probably in July, because we're waiting on that information to see what people wanted it to continue as, if anything. And I think one of the things, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were thinking if we did determine there's a need to continue, it would possibly be further with the MOU contracts or OER, because you're doing that fantastic project. But those things also might fit into a regular CCC-TPP meeting. Maybe the leadership plans behind the scenes and presents on behalf and keeps the listserv going. It's unclear if we need to add meetings as everyone's just coming back. So we're waiting to kind of poll, and this meeting, this retreat will be great because we can kind of think, if we do a poll, should it be the same poll for all the COPs in CCTPP, and then we pull out information to inform everybody instead of having a more isolated poll.
Megan, when did the creation of the Canvas shell come about?
Yes, I was going to point to Shannon to share that part, because Shannon was really the expert at really finalizing that. I took the supporting role because Shannon is an OER expert and has experience with that. And I got to learn a lot from Shannon by helping with it. But that began in the summer, and we had a 1.0 and 2.0 that Shannon can share about.
Yeah, our 2.0, what we launched in fall, so it was pretty, we got it out pretty quickly, the first version, and then cleaned up quite a bit for the second version and had that out mid-fall. So that is still up and running. I've been looking at changes there, but instead of making just the changes there, all of those virtual pieces are being included in the new course that we're working on creating now, which is the updated OER piece. And it's got all of it'll have all the ancillary materials for the Intro to Ed course. We're working on test banks, creating test banks right now, and a wide variety of things. So we're creating a complete OEI course. So once that is launched, we were hoping to have it launched this fall, but we've had some hiccups this summer. So I suggested with the ladies that I'm working with that we finish going through the semester as we teach and build together, and then launch it at the end of fall. So that will be good. Cheryl Johnson is working with me and Megan Bennett. Cheryl and I have been able to meet. Megan has not been able to meet with us at all yet. So we've got to make sure we're all on the same page. And then Cheryl is in Europe right now. So timing has been off to try to continue to work together. So we kind of are on a timeout or a pause for a little while.
I'm so excited for you all to be doing that, and that you're sharing it is just icing. It's such a contribution to the field.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And I think that the connection there too is that both of them are part of ACTEP. Mm-hmm. And that is a big part of some of the next steps is, and the reason why we're working together is because we're all in each other's backyards. We're all in the Central Valley together. So our thought process was creating a generic shell, but us working together to build resources for the Central Valley for our observations and things like that. So
So cool.
we'll take it from the level that we're creating and then working through the Central Valley with it as well. But I think there's definitely an opportunity moving forward so that if we don't necessarily continue a full EDU COP, we can connect with our TPP work and ACTEP, since we've been bridging that gap now. So
Shannon, I have a clarification question. What is OEI?
okay, so OER is the resources. OEI is the like the inventory, like the full development.
Inventory.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it kind of means a course,
Yes.
a well-rounded course, not just your book, so to speak, that now is free and open.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of the online education initiative. So yeah.
I definitely think that's something that would help others. I know it's helped me and my colleagues who are starting to develop OER for some of our new courses, to have that as a vision. And I want to do a kind of backtrack for a second and thank Kathleen and Kim and others who were also part of, especially the summer pivot in the fall, where we really worked as a team to develop all of our presentations, and everyone took a big chunk of time to present. Shannon and I kind of took over in the spring because there was less of that emergency response and schedules changed, and Kathleen's retirement and, you know, everyone's schedule just being different, and the urgency not there for as many large presentations with each of us. We got to reach out to others. But that was so fantastic that it was such a group effort. And so I don't want to, for the recording's sake, don't want to make it, you know, just Shannon and I and Renee. Also, you started this. This was your vision, and you contributed so much. And I feel like you helped Shannon and I get to have a leadership opportunity, but you were always there too. And so I personally just want to thank everyone, because I learned so much just by watching all these good things. And I feel like very fortunate and lucky for that.
I agree, Megan. I feel like it was a lot of work this past year, but it's been some of the most enriching of my whole career. And I know for a fact that we impacted not just faculty, but thousands and thousands of students.
It's like informal mentoring with each other when we present to each other. And I was at a retirement party yesterday, and just like your icebreaker, Renee, or you're pulling things out of a cup, the organizer had us pull out questions for the retiree to ask her, what's the best part? What's one thing you would change about the college? You know, hot questions. And one of them was, you know, if we could do more job shadowing like they did in this one department for the clerical staff, where when they got to observe or shadow, I don't know if it was a day or longer, they're like, that's what you have to do when I ask you for XYZ. And then the vice versa, that's what you had to do to get ready to ask me that. And they totally changed things. So we've kind of exposed the way things work. We're sharing through video and having a collection of the meetings. And I feel like that allows people outside of our group, as we think about exposing others to the work we're doing, making them aware, because sometimes people don't know. That it's a wonderful experience, and how can we leverage this practice or continue it or morph it into something where we're bringing TPP across the state to an audience, a different audience maybe, who can then say, oh wow, this is what we're doing, look what they already have, and they're not funded, and they're volunteer, look at that. And it's kind of like informal job shadowing. It's like a mentoring in some tiny way. I don't know if I'm making sense. Kathleen's nodding, but I don't know if you're just being nice. But just kidding.
You always make sense, Megan.
Okay, well, sometimes my brain is going so fast. I'm like, did I just make sense in English? Okay. Anyway, I will stop.
One of the things
Always makes sense. Megan always makes sense. And can I just add, I have to stop off this retreat a little bit earlier, but I wanted to make sure to contribute a couple things. One is, I'll second what Megan said. Absolutely, the groups, both ECE and EDU coming together, over this pandemic has really strengthened relationships across the state. And you're right, Renee, just impacted students by providing uniform, I guess, decisions, to problems, just uniform decisions that made us actually look like, as a community college system, we were on the same page. So I think moving forward, I would suggest a couple things. One is that we're not in the same place we were in that people, even in July, my regional meetings, I've paused because everyone's on vacation. Can you imagine? They're on vacation.
Yeah.
So life's different right now, different than it was last summer. So I do think that I would suggest for both the EC and EDU, we need to do kind of a more coordinated job around master calendaring ahead of time, like knowing that, to me, I think as many times as we can for faculty, especially, to double dip, have the ACTEP meeting with the have TPP with the COP. So really, I guess, minimizing the frequency, but maximizing the collaboration, and having it posted ahead of time, because I think faculty are getting really distracted right now. We're only going to be 30% at City College in person. The rest is online. Our CSU is, I've heard, San Francisco, between 30 and 40% in person, the rest online. So definitely we've got challenges around in-person and online scheduling, and just we're all doing definitely different. So I think that makes it more complicated. In terms of next steps, I think we're also at a new era. We're going to have this money pouring in, and we've got not only money pouring in, but I think faculty and staff that are still, I would say, pandemic paralyzed and overloaded. So I think really having partner meetings that are strategic, where we can support folks to be able to understand the money coming in. And it's not all about money, but money is important this year. It's the state budget, the federal budget, and many of our local budgets have ECE, EDU topics that, are in that budget. And so I think really having meetings strategically clustered around opportunities, opportunities at the federal level, opportunities at the state level, how we can join together to be on the cusp of being responsive. Because what we don't want to have happen is money coming in and it's not spent, or it's not, or the wrong people are getting it. And kind of our work is just, I don't know, not maximized. The other thing I think we need, and Renee, you and I have been on, I think everyone, but especially you and I've been on some of the calls with Faith and Julie and Peach, and it's very clear to me that some of the decision makers are not aware of the good work that many of the COPs engaged in since March of the pandemic. So I do think, Renee, when you say white paper or summary, or there was so much good work that we saw problems for our system. Yeah. I mean, Shannon, just we saw problems for our system, and it's not. And right now, I really feel like people are getting paid to solve the same problems, and we've already solved them. So to me, that's a marketing problem. We solved them, but we didn't take the next step of saying, this is what we've been engaged in. Here's the summaries. Here's the leadership. If you want information on how we solve this, talk to us. Don't fund some other group.
Kathleen, when you talk about budgets, I feel like I'm so in agreement with you. And I'm one of those people that just doesn't know what's the next step. I remember being on the NACTEP board, the National Association. We would do DC visits to our politicians. I know ACTEP could go in that way because we have regional caucuses and there's a legislative advocacy body. I think a white paper from this group can be shared in the same way, whether it's in coordination or not. And I imagine myself going to my local politicians in Long Beach. We have a few educators, and saying, you know, here's what I think you should do. They're sharing on social media the stuff they've written that gets passed. And I just think sitting down with the person in your own town is going to mean a lot more than going to someone, you know, way distant, because I personally will admit that I don't know which pot's being spent wrong or which one could have been me. When I hear about these big grants, I'm like, well, that says it's for tutoring. That's not me. Or you know, I don't know, like that includes me unless someone says this is for community college.
Right. Yeah, well, and right now I think money's coming, it really landing, being thrown and just thrown against the wall and landing from places where we're not used to seeing it come from. So workforce investment boards, local workforce decision makers, those folks have received a lot of money to get people back to work. Every time we have a workforce incentive, we have to think of our students working with children, that we're not always front and center, you know, when you think about workforce, but that is what we're doing in community college. We're preparing a workforce, and the women, mostly women, 85% women, right, in our programs, I think are missing out on opportunities because we're not sharks. And there are departments, deans, and career pathways that are sharks. They know how to, they just sense the blood in the water and they're after it, and they get funded, and their sectors are not as crowded as ours, and they don't look as good. I mean, come on, you know, some of these sectors are just not disproportionately impacted women. Come on. And that's what
that just happened in the LA region. We got shut out of strong workforce to an extreme point this time. Like they made a whole slate of the projects they were pushing forward. And we said, oh, well, since there's additional funding coming down, can we send in a proposal? They never said no. So we submitted a proposal, and you cannot even imagine the hand slapping that happened. It was at one of our members got really thrown under the bus, unfortunately.
wow.
Yeah, and it was just that they had their priorities. They knew the direction they wanted to go. People during the planning process planted the seeds to get their stuff moving forward. We were told not to discuss projects, so the rest of us tried to stay like according to the rules, and then literally got shut out. Literally. And the thing that was frustrating is the slate of projects that the region agreed on literally totaled the exact amount of the allocation for the region, in addition to the additional 10% that came out.
Right.
Instead of opening it up saying who else wants to join, they said, oh, we're going to change this now. All of the money is within these groups. And then that went to the voting members. So it was like the voting members weren't even choosing. It was already chosen before they got it, and they just had to agree to it. And so anybody who was on an outskirt didn't get to throw their hands in. And the North Star projects, just so you know, Megan, we were accused of not being a North Star project. And Bobby wrote a 3-page email detailing exactly with data points how we meet every single North Star requirement. So we came back strong with the whole North Star argument, and people didn't even respond to it. People didn't respond until we submitted, and then we had people angry.
Well, I would say I would say a couple things. One is, and you know, I do believe that in our region, the SWP fund allocation is a little more fair. The voting is more transparent. But there's still an old funded network, you know, and it's really hard to say defund an old network and bring in something new unless you've really got compelling data. So I do think that you just have to look at the will. And if the will's not there to listen, it's not going to happen. So I think it kind of takes talking to one person at a time, and at each college making that effort. And so when Megan said we have to have ways to talk to our own individual legislators, it's also really important to talk to your own college SWP and CTE leads. And we do have, I'm going to bring up that resolution again, because it was an example of talking to college decision makers where kind of a weird resolution got through without any opposition because the right people were pushing it. And one of them was at Megan's college, who she talked to. So it's just the planets were aligned. We've got that. Kate Brown and I are following up. Our own chancellor's office is not. I guess our sector is not a priority at our own chancellor's office, so we're up against that. So if we can flip all those things, if we can use the resolution to flip our sector being a priority at the chancellor's office, if we can make decisions to talk to key people at colleges, at the academic senate, at CTE, who sit on regional workforce. Just all you need is, you just got to figure out that one key person. And the one key person said, yeah, it's a good idea, it'll pass. So it's kind of like ferreting out the power. It's not everybody, but it's the one key person. So I think really I guess what I'm saying is being strategic, not only with the money, but with the power and the decision making, and really encouraging our own chancellor's office to lift our sector. And so for this year, not only a white paper, but kind of I don't want to just say a policy paper, but a map, like,
Yeah.
okay, ACTEP will do da 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 da. We will talk to da 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 da. We will, and it may not be a bad idea to talk to the leadership at CCC-AOE around CTE decision making. I mean, all these fluff workshops about, medical equipment, and I mean, yeah, it's interesting, but we don't really talk about power. And I think our sector, because of who we serve, has been just trampled on.
Yeah.
We have all the numbers, we have all the right demographics. We lift people's wages from a very low level to a moderate level, and yet we're not. We haven't. It's like we're climbing a mountain. So I think a map, for this year would be great, like a power map.
Mhm.
And
I
what
also
female
think-
legislators can we get to champion this?
Yes,
Or
and
female senators? Can we get AOC over in?
And I think there's some men that have risen to the top. That I mean, in our area, Phil Ting is budget king. He's right in San Francisco, and he actually is a champion for education. So I think there's some key people that if they say it, it'll go. So we've got to just have these conversations. The other thing I wanted to say, I'm sorry, and I'll stop, but I think that within our own ranks, sometimes our disagreements and our whatever they are, detracts from what we're trying to do. Our intersector stuff is detracting from what we're trying to do intra-sector. So we have so many people, ECE, PEACH, the EDU, the ACTEP, I mean, it goes on, and everyone's got a power structure, and everyone's, got whatever. And we get distracted by all that. And we're forgetting that our real competitors are the health sector, which has got a lot of money right now and being thrown at it, and computer, and look at everything that was funded in LA. That's our competition.
Yeah.
And so we've got to break out of the. That's why I say let's streamline what we're doing. We should all be allies and really break out of this and talk to people we're not comfortable talking to, and become a power sector. We should be in the top 10 statewide. We've got the numbers. That's what. Look at the resolution. We're number 6 in the state in terms of student enrollments, and probably number 2 in terms of diversity, women, disproportionately impacted students, financial aid recipients. We are the SWP factors. But
I think this has got me thinking about some things. So, you know, my CTE dean is on board 100% in everything we do for education. But we also, Renee already knows this, I have a new weapon in our back pocket here. James is currently our interim president of our college, Kathleen. Yeah, so
Just
I
so
think
you know, James is like OG TPP. James was one of the original
Yes,
TPP leads back in back in
right.
2007. Yeah,
He's
When I-
also an amazing, warm, and approachable person.
yeah.
yes,
Oh,
he's amazing. So I'm thinking about figuring out a way for maybe to do a panel on our campus with James and Chris Costa, my CTE dean, and putting something together that we can highlight how we work together with our community of practice just on our campus and developing within the community. So I can definitely make some connections there. I can probably pull in Fresno City, the Dean of Ed Services used to work at our college. Actually, so I have a lot of connections there too, so we can maybe broaden something. So I'll look into something for the Central Valley for sure.
And
I think
Central
that-
Valley is going to be really key because
could be possibly done soon enough to be in August at our,
I'm not sure because James just started on the 1st.
oh, wow. Okay.
So he's got a lot to prep for. So
Yeah.
I'll talk to him in the next week or so. I'll be on campus next week for a meeting, so I'll stop by his office and talk to him.
Well, and
tell
Shannon,
him we all congratulate him.
I will.
if it doesn't work for the conference, it could also be that we advertise it at the conference and run it like
Yeah.
a week later.
Yeah.
Because it could also, you know, if it's a breakout, then it's going to dilute between the group's going to dilute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As opposed to if it's the whole group.
Mhm.
Right.
So-
I'm thinking if we can record something though too, like we can at least use it in multiple spaces. Another option would be that maybe we work on something bigger for the fall.
Mhm.
I'm waiting on some funding right now, but my conference, my Teach conference in November, I just signed my information this morning, so I'm waiting to hear back. Our conference might be a lot larger than we anticipated, and this might be an opportunity to expand that, and I would record that and make part of that be a panel. So
Mhm.
Are you face to face for your Teach conference this year?
yes.
Wow. Okay.
Kathleen,
yeah.
can I ask a couple of questions
Sure.
before we move on? These will seem pretty elementary, but I need to clear some things in my mind. When you were talking about our sector, are you just talking about education in general, ECE and EDU, the whole?
Yeah.
So education in general.
Yeah, the sector's called human development and education. So that's the
Okay.
actual, so it includes both and a few other things, but it's ECU, ECE, EDU.
Okay, and one other question. So Renee mentioned at the beginning that I came in and, you know, I kind of looking around like, you know, the new kid on the block, and sometimes fresh eyes can be useful because they see things that other people are so accustomed to that they don't really see it. And one of the things that I saw just coming into the group and working with all of you is that I saw some redundancy going on.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you about that, especially you, Kathleen, since you have such a long, you know, deep understanding of this and long engagement in this. I was going to ask you because this question really came to me, and I pondered it in my solitary hours. Like, do you think there's like we're dealing with some human issues here where people want to have a certain amount of control, or maybe a title like president of this or treasurer of this? So they just pop up a new organization that's kind of overlapping with what some other people are already doing, because that's how it felt to me. I was like, wait a minute, that we even recognized it ourselves, where we started blending two groups together because we realized that their prerogatives were so similar that they could just have one meeting instead of two meetings. So I just wanted to confirm that with someone who's been in the game a lot longer. Do you see that is happening? Some of it is.
Doug, I think that's true. I think there's what I would say competition around non-issues. The big issue, so there's competition around non-issues, and yes, some of it is just territory and history. Some of it is that the funding comes out in illogical ways. There's funding, a group gets it, they suddenly have all this money to do blah, 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 even though it's being done somewhere else. So I think your observation in that sense is correct. I also think it's comfort. Many of the folks in our sector are not comfortable talking to the CNIT sector, cybersecurity, fire and paramedics and health, and inserting our needs in that arena, in the workforce development arena. And we are workforce development, and that's where the money is. So I do think it's comfort. It's like, well, where do I start? You know, what do I have in common with these people? But unless we elevate our workforce right now, we're not going to get the money. And so, you know, I hate to keep sounding like that. I'm not that kind of person, but right now it's all about the money. If we don't get some of this money, we're going to end up keeping volunteering to doing this, and our students are going to miss out, because the money that's coming down is for workforce development, it's for apprenticeship, it's for working with employers to boost their workforce, it's for local labor market, labor councils to do. And we also have an unorganized employer base.
Yep.
They're totally unorganized. It's the worst. It's public, it's private, everyone's fighting with each other, and it's school district, it's county office, it's for-profit, it's nonprofit, it's tiny little family childcare homes that, I mean, it's the worst, most unorganized employer sector if you look at that, compared to IT. We're up against Google and Facebook. So, but I do think I agree. The question you asked, yes, and it's comfort level. We retreat to what we know.
I want to chime in on this too, because I think there's one other element that to me felt really tangible in fall of last year. We had been meeting and I think at the beginning, we really believed that the COPs would be 3 meetings. It would be like an intro, a working meeting, and a wrap up. Here's our directionality moving forward. And I think that in my head, I kept thinking like, oh, well, by last fall, we'll be wrapping up and it'll just be like, do this during the summer. And what happened was, in talking with our colleagues from these other groups, Peach, Tri-C ECE, ACT-UP conversations were a little bit later, but Peach, Tri-C ECE, and our ECE colleagues, one of the reasons why I feel like we had to do what we did was because the COPs were a faster acting mechanism versus the other agencies. Like, I remember last summer saying, oh, well, we really need to have a panel on blah, 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 any way that we can have one person from each group and we pull it together in August. And they were like, oh, there's no way we can even look at this in fall, maybe the end of October. And I'm like, oh, okay, then we're going to be working on this. And so I think part of it was COPs were absolutely doing work that other groups could have done. And if we would have waited for the other groups, we might have been waiting most of the year.
Yeah.
No disrespect to them, but when you have bylaws and membership and process and procedures, you know, I mean, you have to follow that.
Yeah.
Whereas the COPs, we're not following Brown Act. We don't have all these things in place. We're this informal kind of group that has turned into something way bigger than we expected. And I think one of the interesting things with the whole element of redundancy is the work we did brought all of those groups back to us saying, we want to work with you more. Mm-hmm. I mean, this conference, I'm having people contact me going, is there any way our group can get in on the conference to present? It's not like, and I'm saying to different groups, well, yes, oh no, there's no flexibility there. And I mean, it used to be like this inclusive thing, and we're now having to be selective because these groups know us, because West Ed wants to be there. They want to present. Ed Trust West wants to present. CalSTRS wants to present, CTC wants to present, like they want to be there and they see. So I think there is redundancy, but at the same time, I do feel like that we filled a need that I don't know if the other groups could have filled in the time frame that we did.
Absolutely
I think,
true.
yeah, we
But
have
moving forward, we
the
have to work
opportunity. Yeah.
smarter, and I
Yes.
think we're trying, like, the Tri-C ECE Peach Act, like we're bringing those groups together. ACTEP and TPP, we're bringing together. We're trying and making, efforts within both groups. Now, as somebody who serves on both of those subgroups, I can tell you sometimes it's frustrating because when you have multiple organizations get together, the wheels start slowing down so much. And I know we're not in pandemic response right now, but we still maybe need to be faster with our responses. So I do agree that there's some redundancy, but I think that the intention was not to like take over or push any group out. It was more just like, we need to get this out as fast as possible.
Especially since most of us wear hats in 2 or more of the groups. I'm a secretary with ACTEP, and
Right.
so that was just kind of rebooting, so to speak, the past few years. I think that ACTEP's legislative arm will get stronger and stronger, and I think that that should play a role in any policy and legislative outreach to strengthen the organization and get that reputation. But I think the CCT-TPP and the COPs get to do a flexible response. And so I think that as we strategically plan in the future, whether they continue or whether we, volunteer in different ways for CCC-TPP without the COP, however it works, I think that that would definitely streamline our time and allow us to do more focused projects that are unique to each hat we wear. You know what I'm saying? I think we kind of need to think, what role will the regional caucuses and ACTEP play? I'm not as familiar with Peach and Tri-CEC and stuff, but what role should that be? And then that way we're not because there's turf wars or something, but that way we can specialize more and say, in the future, this is what our focus should be because it's filling a gap that the other organizations don't fill. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, but I think that planning strategically an identity as we move forward would be important to differentiate the group and efforts, and of all of the groups, it would clarify.
Hello.
Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Rachel.
Hi. Apologize for being late.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello. But but the thing is, it's becoming a bit of a turf war. I mean, just for an example, the COPs were asked to put together a couple of times where people could meet to talk about the mentoring. And then right after our second meeting, the next weekend, one of the other agencies held a meeting. And that meeting got highlighted at the state level, even though we had a bigger turnout and we had more participants. And it was done at the request of those participants. But because they're more known in the community, they got highlighted in a statewide meeting. And I think it's just also being mindful that even though we're trying to partner with them, there still is the turf war.
Hey, Rachel, did that other group know that your group had been working on this issue?
Oh yeah,
100%.
100%.
100%.
Okay.
They were on invites, they were told. Yeah.
No, there's no other explanation for that then.
Right, but
I
that's where,
also do want to mention at the beginning, we got a lot of pushback from all the agencies we're talking about right now, all the groups, because they were like we don't like things like, are your COPs legit? Are they going to continue? Do you have bylaws? What are your members? I mean, you can't even imagine some of the questioning I got from both sides. And I just went back every single question. No, we're not an official organization. We don't have bylaws. No, we're not by Brown Act. Membership, anybody can be involved who wants to. There's no membership dues. That's what I just did. Because that's not what we weren't, TPP has never been, I mean, we had shared funding, but we've never had membership rules, and we didn't have that. It was always just whoever wants to be part of it could be part of it, which I think is part of the great thing of who we are and the COPs and what we do. I do want to mention too, TPP, we are writing a statewide proposal. We submitted one 2 years ago and we didn't get funded, but Kathleen and I, we were at the table. We were so close. And we're taking that proposal that got really close and we are making it current. And I will tell you, I want to add the COPs in. I want to add the COPs because if they can finance COPs, it should be something that we give certain campuses additional allocation in order to run it formally. And I think that it should be in the proposal, no matter what we decide to do today, because the proposal is starting for next year. It's not for this year. And so let's see what can happen with it. But I definitely want to include it because the work that we have accomplished has been significant and it should be funded.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think some of the competition that Rachel's alluding to happens because some folks are funded to do certain things and they just want to look good. And if you're doing this by volunteer, who no one really cares if you look good, you're just volunteering to do it. So in some ways, money taints the goodness of it all and the ability to be flexible and all the things Renee said. In some ways that does. But right now, with so much money flowing out, what we don't want to have happen is even more groups coming forward to get some of this funding that creates more confusion. We need to streamline. And so as leaders, I think it's on us to say, we have enough people, we have enough groups, it's time to streamline and get the power that we have a little more organized and a little more united, and really look at the challenge, not so much being between each other, but where we sit compared to the workforce world, which is at the bottom. So it doesn't matter how much infighting we're doing, we're still not funded at the same level that other sectors are. So I think we just have to kind of get out of that because we can focus on that and it's all true. Absolutely. And there's power plays and people want to look good and they're getting a lot of money to do some of the things that we did for free. Absolutely. That's happening right now.
But we can also create a white paper or a report or something that brings, because I know, for instance, with WestEd, you know, that was part of what Rachel referenced when WestEd went to another group and they held this meeting where we had previous meetings. We already gathered the data, had more than twice people attending and whatnot. And so WestEd then came and was like, oh, so what can you share? And it was like, oh, here's what we can share. And I literally sent this email that's like, here's the Canvas shell, here's the website, here's this, here's the advocacy paper, here's this, here's the list of our meetings, here's all the recordings of our meetings. And the response was, we had no idea. We had no idea that all this has happened. And it's like, yeah, a huge amount has happened this year and we're willing to share all of it with you. So instead of starting this new project that you're doing, build off of what we already have. And now WestEd and different groups are coming to us saying, do you mind sending this out to your listserv? I mean, there's a mentor survey right now that WestEd, they need us to get it to faculty because our COP listserv, especially for ECE, is probably the most comprehensive faculty listserv in the state of California right now. And I also
I do apologize, but I have to get that out.
It's all good. It's all good, Rachel. Yeah. And you know, it's one of those things where people then want access to it, but we can still be a vehicle to help get word out. But at the same time, we should, I don't know, not get credit for what we've done, but like something that's tangible that can be shared, and that includes both COPs.
Yeah. But the other issue is also, I know I'm going to sound like Ebenezer Scrooge, but it's also wasting money. There is no reason why our state should waste money and have people do something that we've already done or that we've already embarked on. We're not at ground zero. You know, they should start with, you know, where the money needs to be spent, not assessing whatever that's already been done. So if we just look at economy of scale and look at what was accomplished with the COPs, which is the purpose of this call, and document it, and also urge the state to not fund people to do exactly what was done already to move forward. Because I see a lot of you know, with Julie, with Faith, with West Ed, with Pete, even with Peach, there's some repetition of what was done. And to me, I said that, remember Renee, we were on that call and I was like, our problem is that people don't know what we've done.
Yep.
And I'm talking about Stephen Profiter and Sarah Neville Morgan. And I think we actually have more traction with Kim Johnson right now. She's much more community focused and aware, I think. But if we don't have that key leadership, and Eloy,
Eloy, I don't think we're on his radar at all.
no.
And
Shenny,
don't get me wrong,
no.
you know, they all got our advocacy papers. You know, Shinny responded that she received it. At least we got that acknowledgement. Eloy,
Should we go to the next step then and ask for a meeting, a 15-minute meeting with some of these folks? Is that weird?
we did last fall and they
Uh-huh.
did not give us a meeting. Sarah Neville Morgan gave us a meeting. We met with her last September, but now I'm back in communication with them about the conference. So like, for instance, I emailed Shinny Weber, Vice Chancellor Shinny Weber and Daisy Gonzalez about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, asking if they could be on the panel for the conference, along with Marquita and Sarah and everybody. Marquita RSVP'd right away and said she was in. Sarah Neville Morgan and Shinny have not RSVP'd, but both of them already registered for the conference. So I'm hoping that that's an indicator that they're planning to be involved. One thing I will say too, with the registration for the upcoming conference that was shocking to me, I'm going to be honest, we're at 99 people registered as of last night, and I haven't done that many pushes on it, as you all know. It's already got traction kind of on its own. But within the first 43 people that registered, we had 9 people from Department of Ed. So we're on, I mean, you should see who's on the registration list right now. It is so across system. It is really exciting. It's not like there's, you know, 99 people registered and there are 30 community colleges and they're taking, you know, 70 of the spots. That's not what this is this time at all. It is like we probably have, I should do an analysis at this point, just pull metrics on it, but we probably have at least 9 CSUs represented, if not 10. We have UCs, we have county offices of ed, we have superintendents enrolled, we have chancellor's office, we've got, I mean, like CDE, CTC, CalSTRS, other agencies I didn't even realize they were like not on my radar. They're registered. You know, Career Ladders is there. I mean, you should see who's registered this time. I think the upcoming conference is an optimal.
Is this something we could make a generic email and push it out to our listserv to invite someone new? For example, I'm thinking I want to invite my local legislator who is an educator because he writes stuff all the time. And I would be like wanting to make it a little more personal, but if we could think of a quick template to reach out to someone that we think should be included or at least aware, and we could do a little request a meeting if you can't come, or highlight a session they should attend if they can pick one. You know what I'm saying? In case it's like, I can't go to 2 days of this, but I could go to the core XYZ where we make it for that kind of audience. I think that that would be powerful. And I would love to invite certain people that are coming to mind already. And Jill Biden, by the way.
We have an invitation. If you want it, Megan, I can give it to you and then you can kind of change it how you'd like.
No problem.
Okay.
But I think we could also get it out if we think strategically to others if they want to invite someone.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too, like I'll use my CTE dean and James to say, here's this invitation. This is what we're doing. This is what we're being highlighted. And so take this and find me some people that need to be there. And coming from, you know, an administrator in our area, I think would also help. So
I also think that Central Valley is kind of an untapped gold mine, Shannon, because I think that, and no disrespect to Bay Area, Kath, but like Bay Area and LA always are like this louder presence. And again, no disrespect, because Bay Area is like kicking ass. LA, we're struggling right now. We don't have the resources in place. It's frustrating. But I don't understand Well, I think a strategy might be taking what's happening in the Central Valley and how do we elevate that to another level? Because it could be that if we kind of highlight a specific region in a different way, maybe it will help funding kind of across the board. And I don't know for certain, but I think so much good happens in Central Valley that there should be a way that we elevate. Like for instance, with when we're looking at the hubs across the state, we have to have a couple hubs in Central Valley. I don't want to just have them be north and south heavy. You know, I want to make sure that you've got one, that Bakersfield has one, that certain campuses that either already have capacity or are showing potential for more capacity are invested in properly.
I'll reach out to Kimberly too to make sure she will be present from Bakersfield. Yeah.
I can't really, I'm going to go offline for just a second. So we'll be
Okay.
doing more work in the Bakersfield area
Awesome.
moving forward. Yeah. And I haven't talked to Kimberly about it yet, but I'm hoping she's going to be on board because they've done such great work already. What Bakersfield did with Ed Futures is a model for what other campuses could do. And so we could take that and put it into the proposal. For sure.
Working with her and watching them just progress and what they did in 2 years is phenomenal.
Yep.
You know, but they have a lot of different things in place, whereas, you know, they're in a bigger area versus, you know, me being in the middle of vineyards and cornfields. So it's
well,
a little
their whole Kern partnership. You know,
Yeah.
they've got such a partnership with Kern. And Cal State Bakersfield, that's a statewide model for what that could look like.
Yes, for
I
sure.
think Central Valley is important politically also right now because there's a lot of impetus to reach out to people from both parties, and it's more, you know, Central Valley is what Central Valley is, but I think it's really seen as an area, a ripe area for really both Democrats and Republicans to make a statement. You can't say that in the more urban regions. So I think it does make sense. James is in a really good spot to not only help us, but to help the community colleges. So that's really key.
I think it's huge, Kathleen, and I think that we do have, you know, a wide variety of both parties, but we all come together constantly
Yeah.
for our students and for the work that needs to be done. We have to be extremely innovative in the Central Valley because we don't have the funding and we don't have the opportunities that some of these larger areas have. One thing we do have is community and the support of each other. One of the things that we did at our college that's very different. Would you like to know who trained all of the CTE instructors on how to teach and how to create content and curriculum? This person right here, the person with the teaching credential. So that is huge, right? I did all of the training for our faculty on understanding how to write measurable SLOs and understanding what that looks like and making sure their outcomes and their assessments were connecting and that they knew what formal assessments are and summative assessments and all of that training. And we've done that across the Central Valley for a long time. Our colleges have worked through that. So I think there's a model there that definitely we can look at and really strengthen the CTE bond. So
yeah. And Shannon, you have the opportunity through the Canvas Shell. You know, we had talked last year about adding more resources and using Canvas as kind of the go-to place for faculty to join things and to get into things. And the Canvas Shell is kind of like it penetrates all courses. So, you know, there's, I think, a lot of future possibility to use Canvas to, I don't want to say the word infiltrate, that sounds very nefarious, but to reach our people that haven't been so involved. The other thing I want to mention, and none of you mentioned this yet, but you know, all the regions, how they're structuring strong workforce is changing. So all the regions are going out to bid right now. And so they're asking, at least our region is asking, are we missing any priorities from these sectors? And you know, all the sectors: transportation, agriculture, business, energy, global trade, health, no child development, no early childhood, no education. But the regions were instructed to go out. who's missing, who's not here. And the funding for the TAPs and the directors it's gonna be regional. So they're changing the system. Shani and Eloy's answer to "you're missing our sector" is then you guys decide. It's gonna be regional. Each region is probably gonna have a different set of priorities. In some ways, the state chancellor's office has abdicated the responsibility and giving it over to special interests in some ways. But this is the time to say, these are data points for our sector. We need to be a priority. We need to have a director. We need to have a TAP. Why are we not on this list? And this is a regional thing. They have to send in the plan. I just got the email. Our region's getting the plan together in July. The funding will roll out, and that's set for the next 2 years. So, so when we talk about urgency, and LA is very troubling, because if they're not funding you right now, they're not going to open this up.
Well, and Kathy, can we also talk about just the stuff that's happened with the mentor program and how that is, because most of the schools were going to strong workforce to get the funding to be able to run their mentor programs. And all of a sudden now we don't need that money. So here the colleges, we're working with the departments to be able to be like, yeah, we'll figure this out. And all of a sudden the state comes in and it's like, no, we've saved the day. We're fixing the program. And so now we've as a field have basically, I don't want to say screwed ourselves, but we basically did a whole bunch of work that was unnecessary. And we've let the colleges, the district, strong workforce funding know that we're kind of jerking them around a little bit.
Well, not really, because the money, it's Kim Johnson that's taking over the mentor program, not Sarah Neville Morgan. It's moving over to DSS. So CDE did not listen, and they're giving it away. So in that sense, it's still being stopped. It's still disappearing.
Right.
It's just being picked somewhere else.
It's being picked up by another.
Right.
But like most of the colleges have worked with their deans and their administration to try and get strong workforce funds. So now that's sending a message, wait, we don't need it. So now we're kind of in this position where we're kind of teasing the state a little bit. Like, yeah, we're going to allocate $100,000 to this. Oh, never mind, we don't need it.
Oh no, I think
next time.
Yeah, but I think we need it. I mean, number one, our mentor program never served the needs of all the students. Number two, if we're still doing virtual practicum, we're going to have to pay people to sit virtually one-on-one with people. To me, there's still opportunity to spend the money. And they could, you could assign mentors to do whole groups of brand new students. And I mean, there's all kinds of things we could do to move this pipeline forward. So I think the money is still needed. I think CDE dropped the ball, and DSS is picking it up because Kim's smart, and Kim was in the mentor program also, but the money can still get spent. Our students, I mean, at least in San Francisco, not only a third of our students ever saw a mentor. So the money can be spent, but to me, that's strong workforce. You came and solved this crisis, but how do we elevate ourselves to get out of this crisis mode and get in the gravy train where we're a regular sector and we've got someone leading us and we've got money that's coming down from the state into the regions that says we're a priority, where we don't have to fight over this. We're not there. Let me, and I just got the email about the timing. Do all of you know the timing for these regional directors to be selected?
No.
Okay, let me read this to you because our region just sent it out. Okay. All the regions have to respond to the FYI Regional Consortia RFA due August 31st. So the regional consortia RFA, I could put the link in the chat if you want to look at it, is where the regions were instructed to reimagine their regional framework, including refreshing our priorities, sectors, and otherwise for the next 3 years. We've discussed locally at the Bay region, the reimagined framework. On our last few calls, we've had small conversations. Here's our region opportunity to rank our 28 proposals. So I got a proposal in, it says something like ECE, EDU, I don't know what it says. We'll see, because I'm not a, you know, I'm now less than I'm not a dean, and I'm a retiree, but there's a lot of interest in the region. So I'll put this proposal
Are you
in.
soon to be the
Yep.
regional director?
Huh?
Are you soon to be the regional director?
Oh, no, but I would support whoever is. Here's the RFP. So I just put it in the chat. So take a look at it, due August 31st. That's not just San Francisco, that's every freaking region. All 7 of them have to come up with their priorities in this plan and fund directors and TAPs. So if we get squeezed out, we may get, I mean, there's a lot of competition. This is a 3-year plan. So I think that's an immediate priority for COPs to at least say, hey, talk to your CTE deans, refer to this, talk about the enrollments in your department. It's all about enrollments. SWP factors, how many students, how many graduate, how many get jobs in the sector, how many get a certificate, how many are disproportionately impacted, equity. So that's just a local decision. I mean, just, you know, talk to your local people, your local CTE.
Kathleen, speaking of equity, have you caught any vibes that there may be some movement focused on particular groups of teachers of color that might, like we were talking earlier about not duplicating the work that's already been done and not creating new things. But it occurs to me, I've been part of a number of workshops, and I know there's a lot of buzz around the state, probably around the whole country, not just about teaching in general, but with a very specific focus of you know, teachers of color. So just asking a general question, have you heard any buzz? Have you caught any vibes about stirrings of maybe creating some kind of a, like what we're doing, but we're talking about teaching in general. We're not really focusing on any particular group. Have you smelled that or caught wind of anything like that? Have you?
Look, if he starts to come down.
I don't think the our competition, again, I don't think the other sectors are caring about that right now. They're trying to preserve their funding. And so if you're in a priority sector and you have a whole 3 people in your region getting funded, they're worried about preserving their jobs. So they're going to make their students look the most disproportionately impacted. So I think we have to tie our students and developing diverse teaching workforce into all the sectors, that all of them will do better with a diverse group of teachers that we prepare who came from community college. But I don't think right now people are listening to that because they're all worried about keeping their jobs. Even in our sector, some folks are really worried about, you know, having their job preserved if their sector's not a priority. So
In the LA region, Kathleen, I literally felt like at the last meeting, everybody, I was on a workforce engagement group or something like that. And they're like, yeah, so I've got my position until this date. I've got this position until this date. And it wasn't like 1 or 2 people. There was maybe 10 or 11 of us.
right.
And it was
Right.
probably 7 of the 11.
I know.
It was majority.
I know. I gotta stop out.
Okay, this is fascinating. Now, I prepared the SWOT analysis kind of guide for us to use, and we're filling in a lot of it right now. But I'm wondering if it's okay with everybody if we go to that for a little bit, and just because I want to make sure that we document this. I'm taking notes, but I think it'd be smart for us to do it on the Jamboard as well. Is everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay, I just put the link in the chat. And so, okay, also, this is a little bit busy. I'm just going to show it, but I'm wondering if somebody else would be the like a note taker as we're talking, or how do we want to do this? I mean, I was envisioning that we would break into like 2 groups, and we'd have one group focusing on the ECE COP and the other group focusing on the EDU COP, and then just working through these questions. A SWOT analysis includes our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The sizing of the font just did it its own. It's not like threats is more important or anything like that. But I have a set of kind of guiding questions for us to work through. And I think that if we take the time to do the SWOT analysis, we're going to have pieces in here that we're going to be able to pull out and use for final report or use for other reporting mechanisms. So I'm wondering, what do you guys think would be best? Should we break up or should we just do it collectively together? I think it will go pretty quickly once we dive into it.
I just wanted to say I requested editing access right now. I don't know if anyone else can take notes besides you.
Oh goodness. Okay, sorry about that.
I didn't get it in the chat at all.
I
Oh,
got it off the agenda, by the way. I didn't get a link in the chat.
Yeah, your chat, that thing didn't come through, Renee.
I just sent it again. It didn't go?
Mm-mm.
Not yet.
Maybe you're sending it
Hi?
to one individual instead of.
Oh goodness. Oh my gosh. It's everyone. Okay. Somehow.
Redo the link to the share. Oh, it looks
You know
like.
what it was earlier? I sent an email or I sent a message to the person who showed up to the meeting. I sent it to her in the waiting room. So I apologize. It like locked me into the waiting room.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And then did you just say that you can't edit on this, Megan?
It now says sharing, and it looks like I have
Okay, excellent.
requested access, actually.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, it says view only.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Let me open share settings. Sorry, I did this recently too, where I thought I had it shared right and I didn't. Okay.
I've even clicked share only or share, and then it's not giving share. So sometimes it just is picky.
Okay, just give me a second. Oops. Okay.
Renee, with regard to your earlier question, I would be in favor. There's just a few of us here of talking it over together than breaking into groups. I think would diminish our mental power by breaking into groups.
Okay.
As opposed to our whole group. There would be more perspectives and more diverse, knowledge, background, experience, all that kind of stuff.
I'd prefer that too, Doug, as long as everybody's okay with it. I know it'll take a little more time to do it that way, but I think it'll be more useful.
So the way we respond is by popping sticky notes up there, right?
Yes, or what I did was I already wrote like each blue note is going to be a response for the COP and each orange note is a response for the EDU.
Oh, so we can type
the
into that
address,
box?
you just delete and then type into it.
All right.
Yeah. So is anybody willing to be a note taker?
Still don't have access.
I'm just testing
What?
it right now.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I can't.
Did anybody get access now? Because I sent it.
I can help take notes. Let's start and see if that works. And if
Okay.
others see it, it should be editing.
Okay, Megan, I'm gonna make you. Oops. Let me make you co-host.
Do I share screen or something then?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not able to do anything with like.
It says disabled screen sharing.
What?
It's opposite day.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I made you co-host.
Mhm.
How is it disabled screen sharing?
Now I can. So there we go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we had an update with our Zoom and now I can't even get to transcripts anymore on my recordings. I don't even
All
know.
right. So let me see here. What did the ECE COP do well? Or which one do you want to start with?
We can start with the ECE COP.
Okay.
Okay, what do we think we did well? I would say fast response. I think that was something that was huge.
Listening to the community and responding to the needs expressed in the moment.
I think you've also built up a large community through that. I think that's something that,
Yeah, brought various agencies together or groups together. That's what I saw.
There was consistent participation
And your website.
yep.
in the website.
Let's see here. I think something that we did well is communicate what we were doing. I know we had several papers that were produced and other means of generating notice to other people. And from the discussion that we had earlier, I saw that that was a problem of some groups doing things, but nobody knew what they were doing.
Mhm.
So I think we did a good job of letting people know what we were doing.
We pulled on the strengths of the people in our groups.
Mm-hmm. And that's demonstrated by some of the trainings that took place over the course of the year, where somebody showcased something they needed, and then instantly it was like, well, who in the group can do that? And it was, I mean, we pulled internally for, I think, all the professional development, right, Rachel?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The only time, no, we didn't go out and find anybody. Most everything was people willing to offer their services.
Mm-hmm.
I think the
The
EDU
only time
had,
I asked,
sorry, go ahead.
the only time I had asked for somebody to step in was because I knew a particular person was really good with Google.
Mm-hmm.
And, he stepped in and gave a training, but other than that, it was community members.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. In terms of the EDU COP, what we did well, I think the Canvas Commons, that is something I think is still huge. And I think one of the things I wonder about that is, do we have ability to pull metrics on the resources that have been created? Because it would strengthen our story if we could say how many people have accessed Canvas, the Canvas Commons 1.0 and then 2.0 and the ECE Faculty Collective website. And, I think it'd be great if we could pull analytics for whatever we can get analytics for to demonstrate.
I'll let you know right now.
Is there a to-do list of things that we want to take away from the end of this meeting? Is there like a general to-do list? Because that could be something I can't write down right now, but if it's on a list later on, I can go back and cross it off when I'm done with it.
Yeah, we can definitely add a to-do list and include metrics for sure.
Renee, was the EDU COP responsible for the Teach LA conference?
No.
Okay.
No, that's the Teach LA Regional Collaborative. My college is one of the participants and Renee is a part of it as well.
Okay.
So that was our Strong Workforce Regional Project that did that conference.
Okay.
I think what else we did well though with the EDU was again the quick responses to needs.
Yeah, I kind of wrote same as ECE because I think we
perfect.
agree with
Yeah.
all of that except subsequent Campus Commons for
Perfect.
the website.
We currently, I can't pull all the information, but I do know that there's 97 downloads of the second version.
Excellent.
So
I think with the conferences though, the people that led some of the workshops came from the collaborative
Yes.
relationship. So I think it did help. And then the other thing, we can't say that the EDU COPs resulted in ACTEP, but there's leadership that is leading ACTEP that came from the EDU COPs, and there was cross pollination. So I think having ACTEP was underway way before, but got a shot in the arm because leadership rose. So you could say seeded, helped to seed the forming of the professional organization or strengthened it,
Mhm.
Energized it.
energized it. Yeah.
And we've partnered with ACTEP and NACTEP. We did a coffee chat. We did. I think there was Was there an article in ACTEP?
Yes.
I thought, okay, and I'm not even sure about this, but when NACTEP started doing their coffee chats, I was like, oh, I wonder if they got that from the COP coffee
Oh
chat.
yeah, when I invited you, Renee, that's because I'm an ambassador to NACTEP, and I said, here's what ACTEP does, here's what CCC-TPP does, and when their president asked me for a meeting to talk about, hey, you have these ideas, tell me more, I got to share that a coffee chat is a nice informal way to host guest speakers and have non-members join you to see what you do to consider membership.
And it's turned into a series. It wasn't just
It
us.
turned into an ACTEP series. Yep. So
So
that came from Julie taking an idea I shared with her at a private meeting.
And I think that's important to show the impact we've had on other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Renee, what about the work? Wasn't it part of the EDU COP, the work we did kind of combing through each campus's EDU courses and
That
certificates?
was actually that was only in the
Teach
LA
LA.
region. So that was only Teach LA, but that is something we could absolutely do at a statewide level. If we want to take that model of what we did in the LA region through the LEAP project, we can write that in and fund that into the budget proposal.
I think that'd be awesome.
A curriculum alignment statewide. If we did that in EDU, like that's what they did with CAP and ECE. Why couldn't we do it in EDU?
Mm-hmm.
What should I call it? Statewide curriculum audit?
I do statewide curriculum alignment.
Yeah.
Would we also say that our vocal presence of what the needs are in the community got other agencies to act? I mean, I can't say it's a direct correlation, but here we are fighting for videos, and then all of a sudden, the Department of Ed is opening up the videos, and Tri-CC is using their money to pay for the videos. But they weren't active on that until we kept voicing that.
Mm-hmm. So it's like our findings, the COP findings have impacted other agencies' actions.
Yeah.
And direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've also created the partnership with Peach and Tri-CC
Yes.
and OER.
Rachel's totally right, because we were like, why aren't we all meeting together? And also even the ACTEP and TPP partnership, that wasn't finalized into quarterly meetings until this, during the pandemic. Before that, it was just a lot of talking back and forth. And now we're into, I think, at least 2 quarterly meetings that we've already done as, cross teams. So there's new cross collaboration that's happening that didn't happen before.
We wrote a white paper and we had a meeting with Sarah Morgan.
Yes.
We've started working with West Ed.
Yeah.
We're working with Ed West Trust.
Ed West Trust is awesome. They come to us now. They're like, hey, we've got this and we need your feedback. And we're like, awesome, okay.
Now,
The president of NEYC reached out to us, wanted to hear our perspective.
Yeah. Another thing, and I don't know if we want to mark this down, but I was recently told that our COPs have a nationwide ear right now, and that, God, what was the wording? basically in some national meetings, there was somebody referencing us in California, and they said California's ECE and EDU faculty are more organized than they have ever historically been. And so somebody was at that meeting and said, hey, I want to let you know what happened at this national meeting where they're talking about California. They specifically talked about COPs and the community college faculty and how you're more organized than you've ever been before. And I was like, really? And they're like, yep. So, and
I
I
have a
think
group
that,
of I have a group of Canadians following us.
yep.
Renee, it might be implied in everything that's up here on this board, but I'm thinking it might be a good cognitive exercise, even if we don't put it on the board, to reflect upon how all of these things that we are putting up here have benefited students
Yes.
or benefited the field, the profession, or what did Kathleen call it? The sector. Yeah. What were the actual tangible benefits that were generated? And I'm not saying that we should add it to this sticky board here because there's a lot of stuff up here already. But in my mind, that's what I'm thinking it to the next level. To be and that would help, I think, somewhere along the way with a report or a white paper or something. In other words, how has these efforts that we're saying what we did well and what others sees that we did well and so on, even the comment that was just made about the national meeting, what has it come down to in terms of actually benefiting students and benefiting our sector, making our sector more visible, stronger, gaining support for it and things like that. So I think it's important to keep that in mind.
Doug, I think that's imperative. And I actually, right as you started saying that, I put down, I think it really should, that piece at the very least needs to be included in our budget proposal that we're sending forward in the next week.
Yeah.
Because I think that and including some faculty voices. And that's one of the things that, I think that's an area of opportunity where we should try to get more faculty voice in terms of the impact that the work has had on them and their students.
I wonder if it would be possible to even get some student voices in there.
I was thinking that too, but I'm not sure if the students would,
Well, if we had an education student talk about the ease of field work with the collection.
Yeah, maybe that could work.
We don't need a lot of them, right? I have a few
Yeah.
students I could reach out to.
Yeah, I was going to say, could we just do that internally with our group that's on right now, where we reach out to a couple students that engaged with the Canvas shell, or you know what I mean, or the resources, and just their perspective on it would be great.
I could definitely, because for example, with the Commons, I've already told this story. You guys all know it. That was like a lifesaver for me. You know, I stumbled upon this group and you guys were like, oh, come on in. We got it all figured out. And I'm like, oh my God, I was dying in the summer before the fall semester began. And I mean, my students don't have to know that.
Yeah.
For it to be true. I don't think any of my students could articulate, yeah, that Commons 2.0 really worked, blah, blah, blah. They don't know how that came about, but they know that they benefited from it.
Yeah.
They
got
that
variety, they got to choose, they got to go to virtual workshops that we shared. And we can talk about leveraging.
Keep being trained during the pandemic, during a lab class that normally would have kicked them out and they would have had to postpone.
Yeah, just the
you know what I mean? They got to transfer and graduate still.
Yeah.
Exactly. And meet the 45 hours requirement of the fieldwork class. So,
I think those numbers should be even you can go to Launchboard and look at the data points for how many of our students at our colleges, at all community colleges, got certificates, graduated, all those Launchboard strong workforce metrics.
Okay.
We look really good there. And the other thing I think that they would respond to would be numbers of colleges that participated. So, we may not be able to get an exact count, but clearly we were at many colleges and it's not just that the COPs reached out, but we have faculty who provided leadership and who have really taken a role from a lot of different colleges. So I think the number, just listing some of the colleges would be important. I also think I'm going to put in the link again to the Academic Senate
Yes. The resolution.
resolution, because the fact that that passed without any opposition, and it lists all the data points around the numbers of students and where the sector should be. And the people that worked on that, I mean, Kate's part of the ECE COP and she's Tri-ECE. I was in both. We had a lot of people forwarding that from our EDU and ECE COP leadership, talking to their key people. So it sure didn't come up from, it was a organic, I mean, I wrote it, but it didn't come out of a group.
Mhm.
So it just came out of identified needs. So I think we should elevate that. And then what they're going to really look for, numbers of colleges, number of students in those colleges, in our departments. In a pandemic, I don't think the 2021 data is out yet. It still says 19, but even 19, 20, the fact that we had X amount of students get certificates, X amount of students register in the departments, is going to be something that we can say without peer support, some of these students wouldn't have had opportunities, to register.
Kathleen, you mentioned certificates and
Yeah.
something else, but is it too small of a data point to just say that they completed the class? Is that too small of something to consider? Because that's something that I see as significant. In other words,
Right.
in the fall semester of 2020, some students may not have been able to complete their 45 fieldwork hours,
Right.
without the Canvas shell that
Right.
that was made. So would that be something to mention?
No, I think that's really important. For EDU, it's that class, and for ECE, it's the fieldwork practicum class. That, well, we didn't have the Canvas shell, we had the
Resource.
COP.
Yeah.
And
Well,
discussion.
and we also had the website and the
Website.
observation class.
Right.
And a Facebook page where they,
Right.
where
And
they
the
could,
Facebook page.
yeah.
And faculty learning how to use videos, all those things lead to completion. So, and I think for both of them, they're capstone courses. So I think what you can say is, yeah, let's say you had 100 people finished. Those are capstones. You
Mhm.
don't do that at the beginning.
Mhm.
These are people that are probably going to get jobs. So I think it's an important class. And it also, logically, you have other people you've had those people who've taken other classes, because those are capstones, means this is not your first class. So I think that is important.
I also think, I'm not sure where this can be mentioned, but I think it was a key piece that we were invited by CTC to assist with the early childhood flexibilities. I think that, we had key people from our team, and we were allowed to suggest who should come from the CSUs and other groups in order to determine those flexibilities. I think that was maybe August of last year. I don't remember exactly, Kathleen. Wasn't it August? And I mean, that I think is really important to note, because our names are on the agenda where that pushed forward to help our students.
Yeah.
Well, and if you want to talk about that, I also am on the design committee
Yes.
for the pilot that's coming out.
Which committee?
I mean, Tri-CC, the design team for the creating the accreditation system for the TPE permit rollout.
Mhm.
But I don't think I would have been on that. And they mentioned our COP meetings just the other day in that meeting.
Mhm.
And
Also-
even Cindy was there wondering when our next COP meeting is.
It's funny, the shift of perspective, because Rachel and we got some pretty big pushback early, and now the pushback is gone. It's a very different feel, which is great.
I've tried my best to take the notes. Does anyone see something you feel like is not caught so far as I've been typing? I know the font gets little, but you have your own view to maybe zoom in on.
Rachel, we have people
I've heard threats yet.
redesign committee, but isn't there representation on the TPAs also, the ECE TPA committee?
Not from our group. From,
Oh, I was thinking Deanna was on.
no, Deanna didn't end up on that group.
Oh, okay, okay.
But there's
Has anyone?
there's other Peach and Tri-CE are across the other two groups. And there's a couple of our members on these groups.
Yeah.
Like Carol Gossett is working with me, and her partner is on the other committee, the TPA committee. And so we have community members in those groups helping to redesign systems. I don't know if you want to take ownership for that, but
Yeah. I like it.
Rachel,
I'm not sure if
Rachel.
I've heard anyone mention a threat. Is that something we should do next?
Sure.
I don't really know how to answer this question just yet. Is it more of like a challenge?
Yeah, I'd see threats as more of a potential challenge. It's just kind of something to keep an eye on.
So kind of like how Kathleen, you were sharing about, let's not look towards our immediate cousins and colleagues, but look to like, I can type in EDU if this is accurate. Looking at the currently funded programs in the state and thinking how teaching impacts all of these professional pathways. So how can we, not that it's a threat, but how can we collaborate or insert ourselves in a way that's valued for what it really is instead of as a separate?
A threat is not being included on the restructuring of the regional consortiums.
That is a threat.
That's a hefty threat that we should have listed as a threat. And it's across.
A threat is also the not getting the academic senate resolution. It's already passed, but getting our sector developed.
You locked Numi out.
Sector development and sector recognition.
Another threat is, and this is for more our side, the partnership we have.
Say that part again.
The partnership with the other agencies that we have, it's a threat. Well, it's not a threat. Threat's not the right word, but it's something to be watching.
It is absolutely something to be watching. So maybe under what threats could harm us? Watch partnerships or monitor partnerships and collaborations. One of the things that's unique with what's going on with the ECE-COP is we've kind of been taken advantage of, or it feels like it, in the last few months with one of the things that's going on. And so we're trying to be trusting and lead with an open heart and an open mind. And I think it's time to backtrack from that and become more strategic than trusting. And I hope that doesn't sound negative. I just think with the way that we were leading before with the trusting, heart and mind, I think it kind of backfired and we were taken advantage of with a situation right now.
Renee, do you mean specifically like people stole our ideas and used them as their own?
Not necessarily stealing ideas, but maybe stealing momentum. And
maybe represented themselves and not including or naming, acknowledging other contributions.
I think that's a great way to say it, because like, for instance, Rachel, the ECE-COP has been working with Peach and Tri-CE ECE and the baccalaureate programs from the CSUs. And when Peach was reached out by WestEd, instead of saying, hey, everybody, do you want to be included in this? They held a meeting and used data from their meeting. And then they were like branded on the WestEd collaboration. And all of a sudden we showed up to this meeting. We're like, what are you like, really?
Oh, can I
And
ask
then
a
once we
side
said to
question?
Wested what we've done, they were like, oh, they
Is
realized.
there a way they can add the CCC-TPP logo now that they know that?
We've requested it.
that.
I would say that's something to follow up on and say, hey, we noticed this wasn't done yet. We know our data was shared but not cited. We would like it to be properly referenced.
Renee or Megan, when you have brought up this subject, how have they responded to it? Did they respond to it like, oh, we didn't realize, or did they respond?
Wested did not realize. Wested was like, oh, we thought we were working with the right. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. We'll totally include you. And then we saw Wested like backtrack, and then they have been actively reaching out and working with Rachel and I. So we have seen a shift, but I have not seen their PowerPoint yet. They're going to be doing some faculty discussion sessions coming up soon. And so maybe within that we'll see our logo. But I can check in if Rachel's okay with that. I can, and Kath, I can check in with Faith and Julie and see that our logo is going to be included on their, when they share in the future.
I'm fine with you following up.
Okay.
Yeah, no harm in being a squeaky wheel if your message comes across open and kind.
Well, and we just are sending out the information for Wested. I sent it to all the TPP leads. And so, excuse me, we're actively partnering now. Like they're utilizing our listservs,
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at the SWOT and trying to think, Renee, you mentioned that this was going to help us think about next steps, how to continue, how often to continue. And I know part of that'll be us brainstorming that strategy very carefully and trying to form an identity. So from our discussion at this point, does anyone have an identity that they see for us moving forward? I know that I'm still working it out, at least with the EDU side of thinking, hey, like Renee said, this is going to be 3 meetings, it's going to be over, but the field was in need of that quicker response. Now that it's slowing down, there's in-person fieldwork resuming by spring, everyone should be fully back. What is the identity? It's like it's teenage identity crisis or something. What is the area that the COP would do? And like Doug was mentioning, without being redundant, without stepping on the toe of another group, because we want to work smarter, and a lot of us wear multiple hats, and we want to make sure we're doing, not work in our lane, but like, what is our lane? We need to know who we are so we can plan strategically and have the right amount of meetings with the right topics that are effective, that help us broaden our reach to other groups that need to know our identity. So who are who are we is the question,
I
right?
need to stop off. I've got another meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Kathleen, thank you.
Nice to see you, Kathleen. Thanks for
Good to see
everything.
you all.
Bye.
To be
Megan,
honest, for me,
no, go ahead, Rachel. Sorry.
no, for me, one of the things that I think about is we were having coffee chats like twice a month. And we have a shift in our field coming up. I know we're talking about going back to campus. I was in a meeting yesterday that we're being pushed further to go back to campus. So like, I can't see faculty wanting to, or being available to be able to attend that kind of training like they were before. So I think we still need to be doing more, especially what they get from our other counterparts. And we need to be a bit more strategic about it. I do know that I sent out an email to the COP saying, okay, if you have any upcoming ideas on new topics you want to learn about, and I got no response. So I think part of it is people are just done and tired.
They're burnt out.
So they're burnt out. It's been a rough year and a half. So I think the COPs, we don't want to get rid of them, but we need to be more strategic with them.
Yes.
I think almost like having a virtual library somewhere instead, where we don't necessarily meet all the time, maybe just once or twice throughout the year or the semester. And
I could see it going out with the video overview, how to use this.
I can see Megan, you and I just creating a couple of tutorial quick videos and sending those out with some links and resources and saying, other questions, send them our way.
Mhm.
And as we get the need, then we can create, either other videos together, or we could create a
Mhm.
meeting out of that information. So
Part of me was
Right.
wondering if we should go into like a quarterly model, like we're doing with the
Mhm.
ACTEP TPP,
Mhm.
and or maybe we do some sort of retreat before the school year kicks off, and we do a longer meeting where we invite everybody. Or I mean, I think the structure is really open. One thing though that I want to mention, and this was something that I saw in the COPs that I wasn't really expecting, which I guess I should have, but Rachel did something really smart with one of the final COPs for the year. She opened the meeting 15 minutes early and had casual conversation,
Mhm.
and then the training began at a specific time. The thing that shocked me was the amount of people that showed up for the casual conversation and fully engaged in the conversation. And so I'm not sure if maybe we want to think about what kind of spaces we're going to open this year for conversation.
Mhm.
And maybe it's just we do an ECE, maybe we combine it and we do an ECE EDU COP office hours or something
Oh, I
where
like
once
it.
a month we just are there. Maybe there isn't a topic, but it's like, hey,
Teachers lounge.
like teachers lounge. I like that. Like the COP teachers lounge where suddenly and so I'm not sure about frequency. Like I haven't figured, it hasn't sat. I usually things will
Yeah.
sit with me and then I start like kind of building. It's everything's floating and not tangible with me.
Can I ask a question, Renee? I see a lot of this being in addition or supplemental to the regular CCC-TPP meetings. And I think did we set those already?
No, we haven't. And
So are they going to be monthly?
I'm assuming that I should survey everybody to make sure that's what everyone wants.
Because maybe we organize it so there's a standard time for CCC-TPP, say it's monthly, and then the COPs are maybe quarterly or twice or whatever. And this lounge kind of office hours thing could be in between or every other month or something, so that there's like structure and those chats can inform the COP. Or like what Shannon said, the EDU COP is going to focus on something and develop something asynchronous that can fit into your schedule, and we describe it. Maybe we have a CCC-TPP newsletter or something.
Yeah.
ACTEP's been doing ACTEP briefs that come more frequently than our ACTEP newsletters, which are seasonal, right? 4 times a year. Maybe some of the COP information comes out there. Hey, here's the link to the video that EDU COP created this tutorial about making your MOU built to be evergreen, so that the next time you redo it, you're including language for virtual field work in a classroom that continues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's one of the needs that is ongoing in our COP is those contracts. And then Shannon's project with others about the ORI, is that right?
OEI course.
It's kind OEI, kind of just the informational stuff of people that are in our COP that's already going on. We don't have to recreate everything, but we need to be maybe the messenger. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I'll stop.
Well,
an
and I
interesting
think with
sorry.
I was going to say, I think with our COP, it's because it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of our faculty still wanting to come together and talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still think we should have like maybe a quarterly
Mm-hmm.
or maybe twice a semester, coffee chats. And we do like the half hour ahead of time for faculty lounge. I think they still will want that, especially as we're still navigating this. Like Kathleen brought up this great idea of just now of, still utilizing mentors in a way that they can have more access to reaching more students. That could be like, here's a pre-coffee chat topic that we're going to just open it up and have an open space. So I think giving like a topic that we'll be talking about ahead of time, and then here's the actual like coffee chat. But I don't see it happening like every month or twice a month. I think it would be maybe twice a semester, but still. And then we can invite people to go to the monthly meetings or how often the TPP meetings are.
Mhm.
But I think it's our population, I think, still wants to talk. And we have a large population that still are not 100% tech savvy. And if we're still doing this hybrid model, I'm sure there's going to be people wanting support with that. So and with all the other changes to the TPEs and those kinds of things,
Yeah.
I think we need to be starting encouraging a facilitation of conversation of the TPEs and how are you using them in your class, or how are you going to look at using them in your classes? And I'd like to reach out to Phyllis and see if she'd be willing to let us use our space to have those discussions.
Yeah.
So people can, especially like the pilots, we should be reaching out to Phyllis and saying, can we help with the pilot?
Yeah.
And can we help with like creating spaces for people to come together and talk about the TPEs? Because that's a huge shift in our field.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been having the competencies, and now all of a sudden we have to completely change a lot of what we're doing. And between all of us here, they are not written well. Please don't ever tell Phyllis I said that, but they're rough.
Yeah.
And so in trying to like grasp what that looks like in our field, we're about ready to have major shifts with the TPAs, the accreditation process. We got to get in there and really start supporting our field there with COPs, I think.
I'll tell you, Rachel, Phyllis was one of the quickest responders for the conference. It was like she wrote me instantly and was like, Renee, count us in. We appreciate being involved. Want to let you know we're available for any of the days and times that you suggested. So
maybe we need to reach out. Maybe we need to reach out to Phyllis and say, hey, TPP have a meeting with you.
Yep.
And we would like to use our space to create opportunities for people who are in the pilots and people who want to learn about the TPEs to have that opportunity. And we don't want to step on your toes, but we wanted to see if this would be something you'd want to partner with us.
I think that's a great idea. I'm almost like, as we're having this discussion, I'm almost starting to feel things grounding. Like, I think the frequency of the ECE COP, Rachel is absolutely right, where there's going to be a necessity for it. And maybe it's not monthly. Maybe it's like we do a quarterly and then we have 2 coffee chats, and maybe we embed like an ECE, like let's not have the COP stuff happen on the same weeks and the same months. So let's have maybe August we do EDU, maybe September we do ECE, and then October's a coffee chat. November's an informal teacher faculty lounge, and then December's a second coffee chat. Or I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly how we structure it, but I'm almost feeling like maybe each semester we have 5 things between the 2 COPs, as opposed to 5 things or 10 things per COP.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want to mention. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I like having that. And I think we need to be strategic with what we're actually talking about during those times.
Yes. Yeah. I do like the idea of opening it up to the CTC, because like with WestEd and what's happening now, if we could have done that early enough, then we could have been the platform. And so I think it's really strategic if we're opening it up to Phyllis before she even realizes she has the need. Hey, we've got this, we're willing to do. Another thing I want to mention with the, yes, Rachel?
No, really quickly. One of the things that, shoot, I just lost my thought. Never mind. Go on.
With the statewide conference, I'm going to be really honest. I've been working with different people on planning. I have like a little group I'm working with, and okay, no disrespect, everybody, I did not include the COPs on my list because I have breakouts from WestEd and CalSTRS and Teach California. And like, I'm looking at other agencies and CSUs and CC collaboration and Shannon and her team doing the OER. And I mean, really intentional. And I had somebody who was on the planning team who's like, you are insane. People are going to be there for the COPs. And I was like, what? They're like, you have to do a session on the COPs. And they literally said to me, You know, the COPs are like a monthly gathering. It's the old lunchroom. People are going to be looking for that because it's provided collaboration. So I was going to ask if we as a team could do, well, I can't because I'll be facilitating everything, but if we could do something as a breakout session at the statewide conference, I think we should also talk about the COPs in the overall larger group with the statewide conference as well. And then the COPs were just got word that we've been accepted to CCC-AOE to present in September and October at the face-to-face conference on how we how we created a community during chaos. And so that we already have kind of some formal times that we're going to be coming out to the public in the next couple months, or not coming out, but available and accessible to the public. So we should also kind of think about the strategy for the timing of our other meetings to even help push these further, but to also include those within the planning, because those are going to be times that people can be involved.
So
One
are
of
you
the
saying,
presentations is
Can
for
I-
costs, the other one's free.
Can I throw it out there? We do an informational session about bringing the community together, but what if we were to actually run a coffee chat during the conference?
yeah, I was thinking that too. We could have a
Because-
coffee chat to debrief like what's come up today so far, or what do you hope's coming up? What do you need to take the temperature of everyone? And if we've already pre-planned a calendar, we can launch that. We can say, here's our meeting dates. We've been strategic this month, ECE COP, this month, education COP. This is the CCC-TPP meeting schedule. Here's the times, whatever, they're recorded. You can get them even if you're teaching. And that would be really nice, because we could say you'll get the more formal presentation if you join the conference, or look at our other recording if you want more information. But that would be great to kind of take a dipstick at the conference of what, what's resonating, what do you need, so we could plan our agendas.
I agree.
Well, and we could see about getting, like, the way we've started structuring the coffee chats was, here's some time for you to talk, and then here's a topic that somebody's presenting on.
Right.
What if we were to find a topic that we want somebody to present on, and that way the faculty are still continuing, like, maybe we have some ways that programs are incorporating the new mentor program with the strong workforce funds or something like that. How are they putting the two together? We can have some of our programs create like a panel for ECE so they can have that space that they're used to having, but then also let anybody else who wants to join.
Would this
be a
be
part of that
separate than the
conversation.
EDU, Rachel?
Well, that conversation would be more intentional for ECE, so we could break it off and you guys do one thing, and like we all meet at the same time, and then ECE people go this way, you go this way, and that way like we're all together, but then we break into smaller topics that are more relevant. So like maybe you're going through, here's all the resources, this is the opportunity that we're going to record everything that we talked about, so you can take a step-by-step through and how to access everything, and be that like the precursor to setting up like your whole system that will be in place for the fall. And then we can give our people a space to have time to talk about how is it going in your preparations for the fall.
The only challenge is that during the conference, the sessions, day one, they're an hour and a half. Day two, they're only an hour. So, and I think it'd be great, might be better to be on the second day, so that way people are digesting the first part of the conference. But I worry about how much time that hour will allot us to like bring in other groups and whatnot. I don't know. I mean,
Could we
could
be at the
question
end of
that.
the day and then extend that part out?
Oh, that's an interesting thing.
Like let the coffee chat be at the end of the day where, it's 3 to 4, but we're going to stay on as long as you need time we'll stay on till 4:35. So you have more time to talk about these topics.
I don't remember the timing off the top of my head, but on the Friday one, Rachel,
It ends at 2.
I think it ends at 2, but I think the last session might be 12:30 to 1:30.
And then we go to 3.
But you need to bring everyone back for the official conference. And
Well, we
I
can
think
bring
people will
everybody
be
back.
drained from that long on Zoom. I think it makes sense if one of the breakout sessions, Renee, is just an hour with either COP. The people that wear two hats can watch the recording. But we could try to make it framed for outside folks to hear about it. But I think a coffee chat vibe is really nice, and sharing, if both groups could share their calendar that we create together, I think that would be all that's needed.
Okay.
Can you tell me the dates again?
August 18th and 20th. So it's a Wednesday and then a Friday.
Okay, I will only probably be able to participate on the Friday.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I teach from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. every day solid. I have no breaks.
Okay.
And then Tuesdays I teach until 7 p.m. So
Wow.
Okay.
And that's our first week of school.
It's my first week also.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, so I'm gonna have a hard time sneaking out of classes on that Wednesday.
Well, should we talk about a possible fall schedule? So, we could kind of imagine what that would look like. We feel like if this is a presentation time slot for August, that we definitely need to start the conversation at least about when we'd meet and how to take turns. Are we going to poll folks on when they're available, or are we going to choose it based on when we are available?
I think, to be honest, we know, at least for ECE, we know that classes typically run Monday through Thursday,
Mm-hmm,
and Fridays tend to be more of the day for meetings.
mm-hmm.
I know Friday afternoons tend to be best for a lot of our people, but during the week it gets really hectic. Like we tried Thursday afternoons, and I got so many emails from people who are regular, and they're like, "I'm so sorry, I can't be there. I'm teaching class."
Yeah, I think
And so-
Teach LA is going to be the first and third Fridays next year, or at least in fall, right? And then CCC-TPP usually is also the same day as Teach LA. So it would probably need to not be on the Teach LA / CCC-TPP general day.
Well, but yeah, those are long days. Sorry, as I'm like covering my head going, I facilitate both of those
I know.
hour-long meetings. But we could work around the CCC. We can work around the other stuff easily. Plus, I haven't officially surveyed for fall. So, I mean, I'm assuming that CCC-TPP wants to meet and they'll want to meet once a month, but I haven't officially surveyed. So
it sounds like, honestly, Renee, you are a part of all of these. So I honestly think it might start with you looping in the Teach LA, yourself, and then, us, and saying, here's my proposal. Teach LA is going to meet these 4 fall Fridays at this time, and CCCTP these times, and then just plug us in twice a quarter for right now. Sounds like what we've all thought sounded like a good place to start. And then we can look at it and say, this works for us. And then I don't know if we have time frames that are ideal, because I'm sure everyone's time frame might be a little different, like 10 to 12 or 11.
I was almost thinking it might be kind of cool to do a lunchtime series. So maybe we do Fridays at 12 or Fridays at 1. So it's not the very end of the day, you know what I mean? But just kind of in the middle on a Friday, because I feel like a lot of meetings on Fridays happen Friday mornings.
Yes.
I will say I have guided pathways twice a month on Fridays.
Okay.
So me having a lunch meeting is going to be really, like, if it was on the days that I have guided pathways, I wouldn't be able to do a lunch meeting, because we go a lot of times right up until 12.
Oh, so what time would be better then, Rachel? Would it be better if we did like a 1 o'clock?
For me, well, I still wouldn't be driving home. I would still be on campus.
Okay.
But yeah, like if we could either get it on days that I don't have my guided pathways when I'm leading, because then that way I can be like focused on that and not having to worry about other logistical things.
Did they already give you your dates for guided pathways for next year?
I have to double check, but I think we're usually the first and third Friday of the month.
Okay.
So maybe the second Friday.
Maybe the second Friday of the month then.
The second Friday of the month could be either COP. You can plug us in opposite each other. And maybe ECE needs to go first, because I feel like ECE has more urgent stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So ECE in September, EDU in October, etc. And it may be smart to do it the second, because I think later in the month, you get backed up with all those holidays later in the month.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
So-
now,
Do you want to, Renee, do you want to reach out to Phyllis so we can
yeah,
make
I'll
that
totally-
like our first?
yeah, I'll totally
You-
shoot her a message today, Rachel, and see what she says.
Will
You
you
know-
include me on that conversation?
For sure, I'll CC you on it. Do not worry. Yeah, I'll email Phyllis today because I think she's gonna be into this. I also want to bring something up. I had it later in the agenda, but I want to just mention to everyone. I can't even believe I'm saying this. I had a dream about another COP. And so I'd like to propose one for fall. I will coordinate because I am so grateful that everybody has been willing to coordinate and organize, but I know the time that's involved. So I just want to say with this idea, if people are into it, I'm willing to coordinate it. And it could be a quarterly. It doesn't even have to be monthly. I think we need a leadership COP. I think we should have high profile leaders come and speak to us about how they lead in education. And I don't know, like I said, if it's going to be quarterly, monthly, whatever. But if everybody's okay with this idea, it would be kind of like taking the August conference and not letting it only be in August.
Like
But
a
it's
speaker
August,
series.
and then in September, we invite somebody. And then, I mean, and one of the people I'm thinking, and I'm totally biased because I work with her, but, you know, Chancellor Diane Van Hook has been an educational leader in our system for like almost 40 years. I can't even tell you how much I learned from her, even just watching her presentation style, not even content, but just style. And I think all of us are leaders in this group. And I think that I want to strive to be the best leader I can be. And I think we should bring some kick-ass people in this year, and that we should build this other COP, this other community where people who are hungry for that leadership piece can access it this way. It would be free,
Very cool.
be inclusive, it'd be a cross system. And
Is it
would
a
just
COP
be-
or more of a CCC-TPP sponsored speaker series?
I don't know why I was in, like, when I dreamt about it, I dreamt about it being the leadership COP. And even in my head, I was like, is it EDU? Is it ECE? And I'm like, it's not either. It's just about leadership. You
Hey,
know?
if we
So-
want to grow our human development and education sector, maybe it's named after the sector.
Hey,
Oh,
ooh.
shit. Did you really just say that? So what
Maybe
is
we can be like, what do you mean you don't validate our sector? Look at our community of practice.
Right?
interesting?
Ooh.
Is that strategic?
Yes. Megan,
Yeah.
you win the award today for strategy.
So is everybody okay though if I like start crafting this? And I mean, I've got the conference through August. I need to not kick off
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
immediately after, but I would like to announce it at the conference and then maybe run the first session in September.
Yeah, I think that you'll need to calendar it around all these.
Everything else.
So if this is on your master calendar, perfect. And
So
Renee, and
everybody's
I'm
okay
happy
with
to-
this?
yeah,
Renee, I'm happy to assist you with that.
Excellent. I don't want any pressure, but if anybody's interested, I know I've learned just so much from you and I would continue to. So Rachel, awesome. I'm taking notes.
Speaking of,
Okay. Now I know we're at 11:30, which I cannot even believe we haven't taken a break. And I can't believe that I'm like, yeah, I don't even know if we'll need 3 hours. And now I'm like, oh my God, there's only 30 minutes left. But this has been incredibly enriching. I think one thing we need to determine before we exit today is what is the next step? Is it a white paper? Is it and one of the things I put on the agenda, and these might even be separate things. Do we have a white paper and video executive summary? Do we also need a tear sheet? We had a TPP tear sheet during Education Futures that it was
What's a
like,
tear
here's a
sheet again?
a tear sheet is a one pager
Oh.
on what you do.
I
And so
think
we said,
starting with a tear sheet and a video is easier than a white paper.
okay. The only thing though is the white paper, we can get into the data. Same with executive findings.
I don't really
Tear
know.
sheet, you're very
Mm.
basically a data. You're not.
Is the tear sheet first and then it's the outline to the white paper? Kind of?
That would work.
Yeah. I
That's-
think we don't have I think we need some guidance and structure. I think that paper will do that for us to begin to get to the white paper.
It could be like the draft, like what are the key points and what's the order they should go in?
Mhm.
Tear sheet. Now that we've gotten feedback on the tear sheet or shared it at the August conference,
Then we built
what
it out.
else do we need to add to it that came out of the conference? All right, add that in to the outline. Now we have a white paper. I think that's strategic with our time.
Okay. Well, and I can even take the old tear sheet we had
And let's update
and,
it.
and update it and adjust it.
Yeah, update it with what we did in our jam board just now, as you know, like anything that was quote a threat and opportunity needs to be addressed in this tear sheet so that we are thinking strategically about, you know, like the call to action kind of part.
Yeah. Okay, I like that call to action. Well, and the idea would be that the tear sheet could be used by TPPs across the state.
Mhm,
They could put their name and their contact info. You know
mhm.
what I mean? So you could swap out.
Take it to our legislator.
Absolutely, and take it to whoever. Take it to your CTE dean. Take it to
Yeah.
your advisory.
I
team.
still want us to present to our board. That came out at a recent meeting. Which one was it? Where I want to present to my board of ed because we need to be known what we're doing. And people were like, hey, if you give me like a little cheat sheet, I'll go to my board and I'll feel confident that I'm sharing the right kind of information. I feel like this tear sheet could have such a wonderful impact because we can take it to all those audiences.
That would be a great video too on how do you present to your board, because people do not know how to present to a board.
Nope.
Mhm.
They don't even realize they can.
Well, there you go. You just gave us an idea for.
Yes.
Okay. So
That's one of your leadership. That's one of your leadership series.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's
thank
the
you.
first one, Renee. That's the first one.
Okay.
Megan, are you talking about the board?
Like my LBCC board, I would love to present again about teacher prep. I haven't done it for a few years and I did it after being invited. I'd like to add myself in and showcase, you know, what we're doing.
Okay.
I think a lot of times we assume we have to be invited. And so like, I never even went to my board saying, oh, I should tell you what's going on. And now rewind, I wish I could, because then I'd be like, hey, I've got stuff to share with you, because you just don't always realize what you're allowed to do, you know?
So Renee, do you have a timetable of, and do you want us to set another meeting right now so we can work on the tear sheet? Or is this something you're going to revise and we'll update each other through email? What's easier for
You know
you?
what, let's, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. My in-laws are coming in from Alaska tomorrow and we haven't seen them for 2 years. So I probably won't get to it within the next week. If
Mhm.
anybody has time and wants to take a stab at it, let me know and I can send you the old tear sheet. If not, I'll visit it in like a week or so. I'll start working on it. I'll send it out to everybody for feedback and then I'll see if we need to meet, but I think it could be done virtually.
Perfect.
I do.
And then is it a Word doc or something?
Yeah, it's totally a Word doc. It's a 2-sided Word doc.
Can you send it to us today as a follow-up to this meeting? And
Yeah.
then I'll take a look and see if I think I could take a stab at it before you do.
Absolutely.
But I'm not sure yet. I kind of want to see what it is first.
Well, and one thing that we need to figure out too, like one of the things we should include is either a mission statement or a vision statement on it. And
Okay.
do we want to use what TPP already has, or do we want to specialize and say what the COPs are?
I think we need to specialize.
Okay. I'm
Wasn't
gonna be honest, I was hoping that somebody would say specialize, because I think we should do a vision statement about the COPs.
I'm
Renee-
happy to help work on that, but I'm with family for the next week and a half.
Yeah. Okay.
Renee, one of the things I saw on that sticky board that Megan was doctoring for us is that the COP is not officially recognized or not officially something. Should we move toward making it official, or where does
Oh,
that?
do you mean making it a professional organization?
Well, I mean, if we're going to be doing tear sheets that we're presenting to boards and other things, I'm just wondering if that would be part of the overall strategy, does the fact that COP is not,
It's not a nonprofit or something.
whatever the word is, it's not recognized as something, you have it on that sticky board.
I closed that doc, but it was basically what I was trying to capture what Renee had said earlier, that we're like a loose organization of people, not a professional organization or a nonprofit.
Yeah.
The ability to pivot was because of that
So
structure.
are we okay with that? Is that okay? Is that workable? Or because it seems like with what we're talking about here, creating a tear sheet that can be used throughout the state, presented to boards and so on, will it be okay that we're just this loose knit kind of?
I think the tear sheet is, I would propose that a white paper is done in collaboration with professional organizations so that all groups can help author or benefit from it.
I'm gonna fight you on that one. I hope you don't mind. And this is gonna sound selfish. I don't mean it to be. Other groups are trying to steal some of our power and trying to capitalize on it. And so I don't know if I want to me, like a white paper or an executive summary is about what's happened with our group in the last year.
Oh, I
We
guess
can
I
share
didn't
our
understand the
partnership.
purpose.
We can absolutely. This is like the final report of the first year of the COPs. Where
I
we
see.
how many
I thought that was the
what were
tear sheet and the white paper was different, because I know ACT UP talks about white papers, but for a different purpose.
totally. Now,
I see what you're
and
saying.
that's why I'm almost thinking like the white paper might be more like an executive summary.
I see.
Because to me, white paper is about advocacy. And now we could use our executive summary to advocate, but I don't know if the white paper will be written as an advocacy paper versus an executive summary, if that makes sense.
I didn't know that about white paper.
Tear sheet is like, what are the 5 bullets for the 20-page paper?
Yes, I understood that part, but I didn't realize the white paper was summarizing the COPs. I thought it was more, this is what
doesn't have
TPP
to.
is.
Yeah, it doesn't have to, but I just
Okay.
feel like we have some really good data there that we have not put together in a formal report.
I misunderstood.
So to summarize, we're okay with our current status as kind of like an unincorporated, free to pivot this way and that way. It actually serves our purpose, right?
And we're under the umbrella of TPP. So we're under the umbrella of our shared organization that is just not, it's not the type of I mean, I wouldn't say organization because we're a collaborative.
Right.
We're not by Brown rules. We're not by, Brown Act or anything like that. And we don't charge people. That to me, one of the biggest pieces is I don't ever want to charge somebody for being in our group.
Okay.
And it allows us the opportunity to be more proactive because we don't have regulations in place as some of those formalized groups.
We have more flexibility and more ability to initiate things, which was aptly illustrated earlier in the meeting. So, okay, that's great. I just wanted to clarify that in my mind.
I'll tell you one thing interesting though. I had 2 CSUs reach out to me and ask me if they could be included on our monthly TPP meetings.
Oh, nice.
So that's the first time TPP is like cross system on our monthlies.
Wow.
So I don't, I mean, I included them, but I include them, but I don't include them in everything because I need to make sure everybody's okay with that. You know what I mean?
I think it's good for like informative meetings, but not when we're working on our collaboration and putting things into place. It's different. Yeah.
To me, it's like the quarterly meetings with ACTEP and CCC-TPP. They're more than welcome to, but like the regular monthly meetings, I don't think it's the appropriate place.
Agreed.
Renee, on that point that you just made, is there something similar happening at the CSU level? Do they have an organization that brings their teacher preparation programs? Because they're the ones that actually recommend people to the CTC for their credential. Are you aware if any organization that percolates at the CSU level?
There's the CCTE, which is a great group. They are very interested in getting community colleges more involved. Personally, and this is personal, I feel like they're really CSU focused and that we're an afterthought. And so they have a conference coming up in fall, and I think it might be smart for us to do a presentation on the COPs at that conference. And especially because one of their people invited us to do a presentation. They're like, oh, you should submit a presentation. And then the proposals had already been due. So it was like she said to do it, but we couldn't get in the mix at that point. And so I do think there's more potential to collaborate with CCTE, but I do find, and maybe I'm misspeaking on this, Megan, but I feel like CCTE and ACTEP have a strong relationship and have for a while. So I don't want to take away from that or distract that at all. I would just like to kind of have us be like an additional resource. So I'm not
That's
sure.
a affiliate, an official affiliate. Mhm.
Okay. And I'm not sure about other groups besides CCTE for the CSU system.
Okay. Well, that might be something, like under the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
level.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with this diversity class requirement coming up, I think they're going to need support from the community colleges. That's the sense that I get anyway.
Yeah. I'm also talking with somebody on our team about doing something for internally for us on critical race theory. Because during our last TPP meeting, it was fascinating to see the different understandings of what CRT is, and honestly, some of the misunderstandings within our own leadership team. And it was like, what? I mean, it was one of those moments where I got off the call and I was texting right away, and the other person's like, Renee, we need to do some training stat. Like, these are the leads of teacher prep, and they don't understand critical race theory. And so we're also looking at, at least having some discussions. And I'm not sure what that's going to look like. The person and I are just in beginning discussion on it, but that's another area of potential.
Yeah, that's partly what I was alluding to earlier when I asked Kathleen if she had a sense of anything kind of percolating around the topic of race as it pertains to teaching, and CRT would come under, roughly under that category,
Mm-hmm.
and other things as well.
And we've got some colleagues who would probably be willing to come in to help us with this type of training. We have some colleagues that are doing a lot of work in DEI, and so I don't necessarily think it even needs to be internal. I think that we want to benefit internally, but we may bring an external person in to do some of that. And so I'm not sure what that's going to look like. It's like I said, we're just in the beginning discussions, but that is another area of some potential.
Well, there's a group down at San Diego State that involves J. Luke Wood. I don't know if you've been in his seminars. And then there's a group in it's either North Carolina or South Carolina, a group of 5 people that have put together some pretty intensive workshops on anti-racist teaching. And the reason I know about that is because I'm a member of Peach, and Peach really jumped into that whole race, raising your racial awareness with both feet. And so we did like a 5-part series, and each part was like, it felt like it was maybe 3 hours long or something.
Wow.
So we really dived into it deeply. So, and their workshops are really excellent. They're not, they're very informative and so on. So I don't know if that's something that would interest you as folding that into one of our TPP meetings or something.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending me the reference for the group that came to Peach and gave the trainings, I'll look into it for sure. One of the tricks with us is we don't really have funding. So it's like, how do we make it work? It's one thing if I had 10 grand and we could hire people.
Well, I could check and see. I don't know what, if Peach paid that group, maybe they did. And the one in San Diego, at San Diego State, I don't know about that either, but I am on the equity committee as part of Peach. And we're about to meet with them. I think it's either next week or the week after that. So I'll definitely look into that and give you the information.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Doug. Yeah,
Sure.
There's some really good areas that we can get into that will be needed this year. As we're moving out of the pandemic, there's still going to be purpose for us. And hopefully we are moving out of the pandemic. With everything with Delta, it's so scary. It's like everybody's ready to get back, but then all of a sudden there's setbacks. I was just talking to somebody last weekend who was like, yeah, I just had a family member come down with COVID. And I'm like, what? So hopefully things will be, returning closer to normal soon, and hopefully next time we can all come together face to face too. How many of you are going to be able to attend CCC AOE in fall?
I'll be there.
Okay. Excellent.
I asked my incoming VP, my VP's changing, and he starts in August. I said, hey, any chance? Because I went to the retirement thing and he was there. I was like, any chance we can travel in person? He's like, I think so.
Nice.
But he hasn't started back with us yet. And I asked our travel person at the very end of spring, and they said, we don't know. You will get an email when we know. So I did my Omni reservation.
Oh, good.
And
They were
I have
starting to
not
book up already,
registered.
Megan, so I'm glad.
I
I
haven't
haven't-
registered.
I haven't yet, and I just looked at that. I just saw it, but did you put it on a credit card and then it's already paid for though, like on hold?
You book it and then they charge you later. Or maybe they hold $100 or something. I don't
It
remember.
said make a reservation on the website. Is that where you registered for it at? Okay.
You want to do it from the CCC AOE website because they have a conference block and the cost of the hotel's cheaper.
It's $179 a night, it said.
Yeah.
Also, just so you know, they're now starting on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. They used to start Wednesday after lunch. And so people would drive on Wednesday morning. A lot of us are going to have to drive on Tuesday night now. So there's another night of lodging. Also, FYI, if you do want to stay an extra night on your own tab, they do have Friday night available. I think it's $239 a night. I'm considering saying a couple years ago, Leah Yadira and I brought our kids up on Friday, and then we all hung out Friday night and Saturday morning. So I'm not sure at this point if we're doing that, but you may want to book your hotel room because they sell out. It sounds weird to say that, especially in a pandemic, but this conference normally has 700. They're anticipating 500 for this one, and they are anticipating selling out and going to an overflow hotel. So you
Okay.
might just want to book it, and then if you don't need it, you can release it later. I don't
It
think
says I'm checking in on Tuesday and checking out on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shannon, are you
Unless
gonna,
you stay the extra day, because the conference may end at night and maybe you don't drive home at night.
It ends Friday night?
conference ends Friday during the day.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, I'm fine.
They always end midday on Fridays.
Shannon, are you canceling your classes in order to go to that?
I am. I got permission. Oh yeah, like the room I wanted is already gone.
Yep.
Okay. All
That's
right.
the kind of thing too, Doug. Like if you have any funds, you could absolutely go to your dean that you work with and say, I'd like to attend this conference and I'd like to be subbed out. Sometimes people will sub out. I used to use my TPP funding to sub me out every once in a while because I was doing trips to Sacramento so frequently that I had to cover some of my classes. I tried to schedule around them, but I got to a point where I couldn't.
Yeah, our dean requires it. You have to find a sub.
Yeah.
Oh, we only do if we're absent like a second or third time. Otherwise, you just cancel.
Yeah, usually we canceled the first one too, Megan, and then it was only if it was a second or third
They
that we
started telling us there's no money for subs. It's first come, first serve, and then at some point you just give them an alternative activity.
We were doing it internally, like, oh, can you sub for me on this day? And later on, I'll sub for you.
Yeah, they do let us do that, I think.
But no, our dean is really on top of that. She'll ask you right off the bat, well, have you
Oh,
found a
no
sub?
one asks me.
Yeah,
I guess I don't miss enough for that to be an issue. So long story short, Renee, I'm gonna have to run just a minute early. You're gonna follow up with the tear sheet to all of us so we can just take a look and see, but otherwise we'll be seeing a draft from you soon because we want to start on that first before
Absolutely.
a video or white paper.
And then I'm going to follow up with Phyllis and send that email to Phyllis and Rachel today.
And
Thank you.
basically once you're done with your visits with family, we'll hear a proposal for when the COPs, CCC-TPP and the new COP would be scheduled, probably Friday early afternoons, right? For all of them, but we pace them out. So you'll tell us like when to expect, and we'll be deciding, agenda topics once we have that schedule finalized.
Yeah, and let's just plan, it's July 7th. I'm going to need a little bit of time to survey the two groups. Let's make a goal by July 30th. We will have our calendar solid for at least fall. Okay. So I will get on doing those little surveys because it shouldn't take that long. Usually people respond right away, with when they want to meet. So hopefully it won't take that long. I'll send those out within like the next day or so and get them going and then get responses by next week so then we can get everything on the calendar.
Yeah, because Shannon and I had told our group that we would survey them later. So this can be from everybody.
Mhm.
Or are you going to make individual surveys?
I'm going to do a TPP survey for just
Uh-huh.
TPP leads, and then I'm going to do a Teach LARC survey to see if you want to meet too.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, before everybody gets off, I know you got to go, Megan, but I just want to take a minute to just acknowledge what we've done, to acknowledge your leadership, to acknowledge Rachel and Shannon and Megan and the hustle that you like what you've done this year and what you've created. Doug, you jumped in here so beautifully. And from the moment you sent that Facebook message, it was like it was meant to be. And I'm so grateful that we all came together and found each other in a very different way this year. And so I just want to just say, take a minute to say, I appreciate you. I know the level of work and commitment that you've done for this. And I wish I had a way to like pay it back. It's just your impact is substantial. And I just want to let you know how valuable you are and just how much I appreciate you. And I appreciate that we took a thing like the pandemic, something really crappy, and turned it into something really beautiful for a lot of people. And we created lifelines and just a whole different way of working during one of the most stressful times for the majority of people that we were working with.
Write that down, put it in the report.
Thanks to your plan, Renee.
We deserve to celebrate. We deserve to celebrate. And so I'm looking forward to what the next version of this looks like for us. And thank you all for coming together today for 3 hours to plan this. You're all fantastic. And I hope you just have a great rest of the day. So thank you so much for your
Thank you.
partnership.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you, Renee.
You know it.
I can't wait to see you in person at the conference and hug everyone. I can't wait to actually meet Megan in person, and I'm so excited.
You and Megan have never met?
This has been our
Oh, wow. Isn't that so bizarre? I know it's like Kim Barker. I've never met her yet.
Mhm.
We text every day and I've never met her.
amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, very
Well,
exciting.
everybody take care. It was great to see you today.
Bye,
And thank you
everyone.
all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.